minivan, Mom. And you'd never give them your phone for a quiet dinner.
Calling boss work phone.
So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, no, it can happen. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk in temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I take care of my bone health, so I remain strong and active as I age. You can too. It is never too early or too late to start taking care of your bones. Bones provide support to keep you moving. Maintain bone strength at every age by getting calcium and vitamin D in your diet and exercising regularly. Get on your own path to good bone health. For bone health tips, visit pathtogoodbonehealth.org.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health. Earth Justice is fighting to save lives, protect our climate, and strengthen our economy through the shift to zero emissions. If clean air matters to you, visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
Democrats supporting the Harris-Walz campaign. This is their big watch party for our entire state. Their eyes are glued on the television. I just spoke to County Executive David Crowley, who's here, and I asked him about the snafu that just went on with 31,000 ballots that are being recounted, and he said, hey, it's human error, and used a mantra by Aaron Rodgers, relax, R-E-L-A-X. Also pointing out, the chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin said, this is nothing nefarious. This was a human mistake. So he does believe it could cause a delay, but believes we're going to see the results at about 2 or 3 in the morning. And then they were also just clapping, the whole crowd here, looking at the big screen, when it said it's too close to call in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. They're keeping a close eye, in particular on Georgia. Many believe this will take the temperature on the health of her campaign, of Kamala Harris, for the rest of the night. What will set the tone? NBC News says Georgia's too close to call. But Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley says he's looking at the blue wall. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. We can't count out how crucial it is for Harris to keep up the blue wall. Now we have 2% reporting so far. It looks like Trump is leading in Kenosha County, Waukesha County, Dodge County, Harris, Dane County.
Julia, has anything changed with the mood from the start when you were there to now?
Relaxed to a little more electric. There's a lot of clapping going on. Let's see. She's a projected winner for Rhode Island. So anything that they see that's going in her favor, they're extremely excited about. The Marquette Law School poll, as you saw, it's edging closer. Vice President Kamala Harris at 50% to Donald Trump, supported by 49% of likely voters in Wisconsin. And just last month, Harris had a 52% lead. But maybe to Kristen's point, did we get the polling right? Did we get enough Gen Z, enough women? And did people even tell the truth at all in these polls? Because in 2016, the Marquette Law School poll and everything for that matter was way off.
Julia, you and I talked about this earlier. So there's 2 parties going on in the state for Republicans and 2 for Democrats. David Crowley is obviously there. Please remind him we don't like Aaron Rodgers anymore. So that's a really bad quote for him. But anyhow, are you seeing people there that you would recognize besides Crowley? I mean, are they having to choose between going to the watch party in Milwaukee and the watch party in Madison? Are they going to both?
Oh, definitely. I don't even know if the mayor will be here. I was told he was, but I'm not sure. He might be going straight out because, listen, it's really, really close. 34 out of 100 Senate seats up for election, and then they just learned that they lost Kentucky. They need to make sure that Tammy Baldwin keeps her seat. This is going to be really, really, really serious. That's another one that they're keeping a close eye on. I just heard that Alex Lasry and Democratic Chair of Wisconsin, Ben Wickler, will be at my party that I am covering.
And they have to be going to Madison, right? So they must be doing
Ben Wickler lives in Madison, so I imagine that he's going to be here for the early part of the night and then head over to Madison on his way back to his house eventually at some point.
Are they nervous? Do you feel nervous energy? Do you feel a confidence? What do you feel in the room?
I'm looking at a woman. She has her fist by her face. They just look like they're listening to every single word that's coming out of Rachel Maddow's face right now on MSNBC.
I was going to say,
what listening intently.
It was beyond MSNBC. Do they have multiple stations on, or just the one that leans a little left?
Just MSNBC, and then I see a live look at the Trump campaign rally and Harris campaign rally, and then there's a big AP map showing where we're at, where they're likely headed.
Julia Fellow with the Harris campaign at the zoo. Julia, we'll check back in with you in a little bit.
Let's go right now and check in on the other side of the aisle. My co-host on Wisconsin's Midday News, Greg Matzik, is at the Trump party at the Ingleside Hotel in Pewaukee. Good evening, Greg. Set the scene for us. What's the mood?
Yeah, there's about 150 or so people inside one of the main ballrooms here at the Ingleside. This has been sort of Republican Party headquarters for several elections past. And I know you're going to find this shocking, but Fox News is on in this particular ballroom.
Shocker.
So, well, here's the dynamic, right? You could hear the claps. You could hear the applause behind Julia because what they're doing as part of their coverage on MSNBC is, well, they are suggesting where Kamala Harris has won. And what they're doing here with Fox News is they are pointing to areas where Trump is winning or has won the state. And there might be a little graphic that shows where Kamala Harris is winning. And there might be a little graphic on NBC that shows where Donald Trump is winning. But the coverage, of course, it's going to be slanted one way given the party you are at. So what it is doing here is energizing the fan base. And as you look around, there is a sea of red. There's one lady wearing a blue shirt, and I believe the front of it's red. So you've got a lot of Make America Great Again stuff being worn and handed out. There's swag bags. There's an open bar. There's food. Like, people are in a good mood. These are all like-minded individuals, and they're soaking in the coverage right now. And even states they knew Donald Trump was going to win, West Virginia, and so on. They bring about the applause. What people are waiting for here, the same thing that people where Julia's at are waiting for. They're waiting for one of the big dogs to drop. When that happens, expect the volume to go through the roof.
Any familiar faces in your crowd?
Scott Fitzgerald was a man I spoke to a little bit earlier. I asked him about the whole hiccup and snafu with the 30,000 votes or so in Milwaukee. He said the same thing that David Crowley said to Julia. Look, it happens, and he's not critical of the mistake. In fact, he's appreciative that, like-minded individuals, it was a bipartisan effort to try and make sure that the right thing happened to take care of those votes and there be a recount. So Scott Fitzgerald is here. This is a big district for him, of course, representing District 5, so places like Brookfield, Mequon. He is spending his night here. I would not be surprised if some make a move back and forth from Madison to the Pewaukee area at some point in the night.
How many people would you estimate are there, Greg?
I'd say about 150 or so, including a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump. I'm not counting that, but people are getting their picture next to him. And no, you cannot make your way from the ballroom to the water park area. I tried, because I thought that might be a fun little lazy river escapade for those before they come in to spend their evening tonight.
That would be very Greg to do that, to make his way to the lazy river.
In a costume.
Right.
WTMJ's Greg Matzik at the Ingleside. Thank you, Greg.
You bet.
All right, before we get to the break, I thought that was a very interesting point that both sides are saying that what happened with the 30,000 votes is no big deal. And I'm relieved to hear, with not a horse in this contest, that both sides are saying it was a mistake, but we're happy with how it was rectified. Republicans are saying, look, it's good. We're okay. It's being taken care of, and expressing a confidence in how the system's being handled and a problem's being rectified instead of raising doubt about, I don't know, this throws the whole thing into, isn't this a good thing that at least at this stage, everybody's saying, okay, we're happy with how it's taken care of?
Well, just how much more transparency. I mean, not more transparency, but I think there's been such an effort to get in front of any kind of conspiracy theories or election denialism or anything that could, but not only just in Wisconsin, but across the country, as far as getting ahead of it this time versus being on your back foot, like it seemed like we were in 2020 when there was so much more so many more mail-in ballots. And it was unexpected and unprecedented and all these words and it just sowed doubt. And this time around, the amount of work that's gone into making most people, not everybody, but most people a lot more confident.
Well, and it just feels like it could have quickly gone the other way so fast if people didn't come out initially and say, okay, we're glad that they're doing this. They're doing the right thing after they found a problem. They took care of it right away. They kind of nipped it in the butt because I think this could have quickly gone the other way. And then you've got, I mean, the national news already covering it, of course, but you could have had things go very differently. And with social media these days, it'd be on fire.
Or Dr. Ken, that the Republicans' first instinct wasn't to hire a lawyer, file a lawsuit, and say, let's halt things right now.
Right. And you also have to look at the criminal intent behind it. That had to be the first thing they did. So by the time they got to releasing it to the public, they knew this was something that, I told you to close the door, you didn't close the door. Something your kid might do only on 13 machines. Now, the problem is that means that 2,307 votes have to be put into these machines. And that's why they've called out the firefighters, they've called out city workers to say, hey, can you come help us? Does it take training to put a sheet of paper in a machine?
No, I did it today.
Right. So,
but here's the thing, though. A lot of people, we talked to Joel Brennan, who we have as a weekly guest in Wisconsin's Midday News, and he was at Central Count earlier today, and he did go through extensive training to be one of the people to help out. So actually, as we were chatting just before the show and talking about the firefighters, that's something that I asked is, did the firefighters go through training? I don't know that.
But can you train if that's your only task at this point is not all the rest of it, but putting the ballot into the machine? Can you get the training in 1 minute while you're standing there?
John,
What kind of training do you need?
They couldn't close a door.
Yeah, and those are people that went. Those are people that went through training.
And
it wasn't just on one machine. That's the other thing. It wasn't just one machine.
Right.
Yeah. All right, hey, we're going to take a break here. We want to get you caught up on the Senate races. 9% of the vote is in right now. It's only 9% for take that for what it is, but it's 53-45 Trump in Wisconsin. It's 53-45 Hovde over Baldwin in Wisconsin. It's 9% of the vote. And as I read that number, I don't even know where the vote came from, so just take it for what it is. It's a snapshot right at this second. We will be right back. You're listening to Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
It's time for Truth Takes, a thought-provoking commentary on the new 101.7 The Truth. Here is Dr. Ken Harris with his truth.
An integrated strategy, including infrastructure, community involvement, education, enforcement, and legislative reforms. Yeah, we've kind of heard that before already. It can correct pretty much anything, right? They use it for everything except reckless driving in Milwaukee. I want you to consider this now. Expand the number of police officers in neighborhoods where reckless driving is happening, punish with fines, extended license suspensions, use speed and red light cameras. We need to inform people about the repercussions of reckless driving, and then we need to follow through with punishment. We need to continue to build speed bumps, roundabouts, narrow the lanes to help traffic slow down. And while you're at it, designate some space for bicycles and pedestrians only. We need to encourage the use of mobile apps to report reckless driving since you're on your phone anyway. And finally, promote local and state legislation that successfully combats irresponsible driving. Yeah, we've heard that before, but no. Just enforce the laws we already have on the books. And by combining this, Milwaukee drivers can enjoy a safe environment that lowers reckless driving, all the risks that come with it. Why? Well, this needs to be the Common Council and the city's primary focus. So perhaps next time there won't be that, dead on arrival traffic bill in Milwaukee Common Council or that traffic bill in state legislature. But then if you're driving, you might want to be careful. The next thing that's dead on arrival could be you.
This has been Truth Takes on the new 101.7 The Truth. Listen to The Truth in the Afternoon with Dr. Ken Harris, weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Did you know that every year, public school teachers spend nearly $500 of their own money for student supplies? Let's do the math. That comes out to over $1.2 billion a year. And that's just not right. At Donors Choose, we want students and teachers to have the tools they need for a great education. And now, more than ever, they need your help. Here's what you can do. Go to donorschoose.org and choose from teachers' requests that support reading, math, science, history, and more. Once a request is funded, we'll take care of shipping everything directly to the teacher. It's that easy. You'll receive thank you letters and photos from students and teachers and a report of how every dollar was spent. Teachers' needs have never been greater. Learn more at donorschoose.org.
Donors Choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Calling all big thinkers. The world's climate is changing. These aren't new facts, but it means we must think in new ways about how we can live, prosper, and provide energy for our world while protecting our planet. Engineers are answering the call to create cleaner, safer, reliable energy. Solar power, harnessing the power of the sun to light all corners of the globe. Wind power, channeling a simple breeze to bring electricity to our homes. Hydropower, using the natural flow of water to generate electricity. Nuclear power, engineering advanced reactors that are safer, more reliable, and produce zero carbon emissions. Engineers are leading the way and empowering the next generation. Engineers answer the call. Brought to you by the National Academy of Engineering. Learn more at nae.edu.
Your podcasts.
This is Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. I'm John Mercure. Jessica Tai is here. So is Kristen Bry and Dr. Ken Harris. The Associated Press right now has Donald Trump at 178 electoral votes and Kamala Harris at 99. Some of the big states, no declarations been made, including Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, still too early to call. All right, we'll stay on top of the presidential race. But in addition to that, a critical U.S. Senate race is one of the races that we're keeping an eye on, and it's the Wisconsin race. It's Tammy Baldwin against Eric Hovde, the incumbent, taking on Hovde, who has tried a couple of times to win this U.S. Senate seat. David Scott, WTMJ, is with the Hovde camp at the Edgewater Hotel in Madison. David, good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It's excited energy here at the Edgewater. The room is full of people. Lots of just excited murmuring. We got music going. Eric Hovde spoke to his supporters just a moment ago. You know, he prepared them for the fact that, hey, you know, the counts are delayed because of the ballot issues out there in Milwaukee. But he said, felt very confident that they were going to take the state. Told people to have fun and kind of watch things. People are cheering kind of as they're watching the electoral maps going. Again, they got the same 4 screens up between Fox News and CNN, and people are kind of watching things closely. Having something to drink, having something to eat, and just kind of seeing how the night goes.
Can you kind of bring us into that party a little bit more? I'm wondering the difference, and we'll find out in a moment what the Baldwin party looks like. But, Hovde is well-funded. He is backed by Trump. So I'm just kind of curious as you paint the picture as to what's happening inside that party right now.
So we got people kind of grouped up at just various tables right now. As a matter of fact, Eric Hovde is just 2 tables in front of me right now, just talking to his supporters. People are hugging, kind of milling about. It looks like a party. Got various tables going up. Again, everybody's grouped up in their own kind of circles. Energy is very high. Classic rock kind of playing in the background. And again, people cheering just as things develop in the room.
See, isn't that great to hear the classic rock? It really brings you into the party. I love those little dazzling details.
Well, with the mustache, you have to be playing classic rock. That Hovde mustache.
Very true.
Does he have a tie? Does he have no tie? Are the buttons undone? What is Hovde looking like right now? And I ask that because that has been a focal point of this race, right, with the stash?
So is he California or Wisconsin?
That's a good question.
Okay. Well, he is Madison, and I think that's
it's
what
Wisconsin.
Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, it's still a little early, so the tie is still on, so tie and mustache are on full display here. But he's looking very confident. Nobody in the room looks upset. Everything seems to be going pretty well over here at this party.
I wonder what the impact will be with not counting those votes. Because I saw something weird. So the U.S. House District 4 with Gwen Moore has 0 reporting.
Yeah,
but then that's going to also, those votes are going to impact Tammy Baldwin.
Yep.
So are her numbers less, or is that race way more competitive than we think? Because Hovde's at 51.27% and Tammy Baldwin's at 46.99 with 13% reporting. There's a good 10 or 15% that's not there in Tammy Baldwin's count.
Hey, David, we're going to let you go. Check back in a couple of minutes, okay?
Sounds good. I will be right here waiting.
Yeah, that's a good question. Hey, let's quickly go to Adam Roberts. Adam Roberts with the Baldwin campaign at the Orpheum Theater in Madison. Let's start with the same question. Adam, paint the picture for us. How many people? What's the mood like? How are you feeling?
Well, we're at the Orpheum Theater, like you mentioned, in Madison. It's on State Street, and when I first arrived here, the mood, you could hear a pin drop on the floor in front of the big monitor. There was only basically a handful of press in here, but it has started to fill at least the lower area. Still a lot of empty seats available for people, but it is, of course, very, very early. I have to imagine people are starting to work their way through. Already the press getting their first interviews with the first people through the door, and we have MSNBC, which is... I'm going to be honest, it's been on a little bit of a delay here. I think we're about 5 minutes behind the actual live feed, but there has already been some hooting and hollering, and I have to imagine as this place fills up, and there's a lot of room in front of me on the main floor level, as it looks like MSNBC is projecting Illinois for Kamala, so that got a bit of a good response from the crowd behind me.
WTMJ's Adam Roberts with the Baldwin campaign. Adam will check back with you in a couple of minutes. All right, we're going to get you the latest numbers. We're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, Brian Clark, ABC News at the Decision Desk, exit polling, early projections from Brian Clark. He's with us up next on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
Did you wake up with joint pain? Does it hurt doing routine activities? How are those knees feeling? Or have you been told it's hip replacement time? WTMJ's Eric Bilstead here. You deserve a life of comfort, not a life of repeated steroid shots that cause long-term damage. It's time to check out QC Kinetics. They'll walk you through the proper diagnostics for a non-surgical regenerative treatment. QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative cellular treatments for joint pain. It's an all-natural approach that harnesses your body's own healing properties to treat the root cause of your arthritic pain. Yes, you can have real lasting relief from joint pain without drugs, without surgery, and without downtime. Learn about your options. Call QC Kinetics. Consultations are free with Saturday appointments available at locations in Greenfield and Mequon. Call QC Kinetics today, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. Call QC Kinetics today. 414-285-3474.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
Steve and Ashley heard our radio ads over the years, and when it came time to buy their first home, they clicked on the blue button. We sent them a credit-verified pre-approval the same day and upgraded to a rock-solid, fully verified and guaranteed
Come in
pre-approval.
with straight truth.
I want to ask you just a simple question. Are you afraid of black people? Yes or no? And if so, why? Does it matter where we're from? If we're from Africa, are you more afraid of an African black, a Haitian black, a Caribbean black, a Jamaican black, a Kamala Harris black, like a hybrid black? Are you only half afraid of biracial people? Are you afraid of black people? I'm curious. And if so, why? Has a black person or have black people hurt you or harmed you in any way?
Listen to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes, weekdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Milwaukee Black Talk.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
At the Decision Desk, Brian, good evening. What are you monitoring tonight? What's at the top of your list?
The swing states. We are monitoring, of course, the swing states, Wisconsin certainly among them. But we're watching early on. We're getting some numbers based on 538, our election projection arm here at ABC News. And we're looking at, they had some benchmarks based on, looked in the swing states and how the candidates needed to do in order to win some of the swing states. And North Carolina and Georgia are two where we've got enough of a picture to sort of just track this. And I will say that Kamala Harris is under where she needs to be in some of these states, North Carolina and Georgia, in some of these counties. Again, this is early. This is preliminary. The vote, 100% of the vote's not in. But those are some trends that are certainly worth monitoring as we move on in this night.
Speaking of trends, when it comes to people voting on Election Day, what are people saying as they walk outside and you ask them what motivated them to vote in the 2024 election?
So it depends on where you ask this question, because nationally, our preliminary exit poll found the majority of people said the state of democracy was what sent them out to vote on Election Day. But then, of course, you get into the swing states, and it's a different answer in every swing state. Georgia, it was overwhelmingly the economy. Michigan, it was democracy, and then by a lot, and then the economy a little bit behind that, and then abortion was not far behind the economy. So it really does depend on which swing state you're going in. But it's just, you look at these numbers in these polls, and they do, I think, paint a difficult picture for Kamala Harris as a Democrat to try to retain the White House. 7 in 10 people in these exit polls say they're dissatisfied with the state of the nation. So you think, okay, that's bad news for the incumbent. But then a majority of people in these exit polls, 60%, said the best days for the country are still ahead of us. So there's some optimism, but also some anger, and we'll see what that means in terms of the votes.
ABC's Brian Clark is with us. Brian, do you have any information, any numbers, any data on Pennsylvania or parts of Pennsylvania you may be keeping an eye on?
So not so much parts yet, but I think I am looking at some of the, and going back to what we talked about with the exit polls, the economy, an animating factor. And in Pennsylvania, about half the voters say their family's financial situation is worse today compared to 4 years ago. So you would think that's bad news for the incumbent. But something else we're looking at are how the candidates are doing among genders. And Kamala Harris was actually, according to our early exit polls, a little bit behind where Joe Biden was among women in Pennsylvania. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on and to see if that will mean anything as to who wins the state. That if Donald Trump is able to win North Carolina and Georgia, Pennsylvania is a must-win state for Kamala Harris.
We went into this day with the idea that 7 states, including Wisconsin, of course, will likely decide who the next president will be. Looking at the results that we're seeing so far and hearing from voters at this point, has anything changed that thinking? Will there be any surprises?
None so far. I think we're still, very much tracking those 7 states as the ones that are going to really determine who wins this race. We're, broadening the map a little bit. We look at who's going to control Congress. We're projecting Jim Justice, the winner, flipping that Senate seat in West Virginia. Not a surprise there. He's a Republican. That's a seat that's held by the retiring Joe Manchin. We're also watching the Montana Senate race. So the Senate and the House races, they'll go a ways towards determining which party controls Congress. But in terms of the presidential election, no surprises so far.
So you've mentioned the economy a couple of times, and are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Abortion, reproductive rights were expected to be big issues, especially amongst women, and you mentioned women. What does the exit polling show about how important an issue that is in the swing states?
Well, it's showing us a conflicting picture, and this is not a swing state, but take Florida, for example. 65% of voters in preliminary exit polls there say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Keep that 65% number in mind, because there was an abortion referendum on the ballot in Florida to make a constitutional right to an abortion, and it failed. It needed 60% of the vote. It only got 57. So about 8%. There's a gap there. That it will take some explaining to do. So, yeah, abortion is an issue, but it is trailing, but considerably, democracy and the state of the economy in terms of the most important issues.
We're talking with Brian Clark, ABC News correspondent. Brian, which way will Gen Z swing in this election from what we're seeing?
That's something that we're going to, I think, tell as the election, goes forward, and maybe we won't know until we're done. Especially, you look at young men and the real push that Donald Trump made towards that demographic, going on a lot of, popular podcasts. Joe Rogan had Elon Musk on for a 3-hour podcast where they both endorsed Donald Trump. There's that concerted effort by Trump to really run up gains among young men. We'll see if the Harris campaign is able to counteract that among young women. But it will be fascinating as many of these Gen Z members vote for the first time.
Brian, as we're seeing more people vote early, whether that's by mail or in person, how does that impact the accuracy and what we can glean from exit polls?
That's a fantastic question, and it does have an impact because, traditionally there's somebody standing outside of the polling location with a clipboard and asking the questions, and that's still there. But now there's people, getting phone calls, there's text message surveys. So the methodology has changed, and I think it is still being fine-tuned as the way people vote changes. And I think we'll be able to tell after the election if these new tactics and the new ways of voting, if they're accurately reflected in the exit polls.
He is Brian Clark, ABC News. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A couple quick numbers as we head to the next break. 25% of the vote now in Wisconsin in the presidential race. It's 49.6 for Donald Trump, 48.9 for Kamala Harris in that U.S. Senate race. 26% of the vote in. 49.6 Baldwin, 48.4 Eric Hovde. About a quarter of the vote is in here in Wisconsin. Lots of counting to be done. Some of the Milwaukee vote is in. Some of the upstate vote is in. A lot of the rural and urban areas have yet to be reported in the state of Wisconsin. We'll be right back. This is Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
From the biggest plays on the court to the comments made in the locker room after, an in-depth recap of every Bucks game in 6 minutes. No more, no less. Bucks in 6 provides game recaps for every game. Hear the high-flying dunks from Giannis.
Puts it on the floor, spins down the lane, and plunges it through.
Or the deep threes from Dame.
Dame time has arrived with 107.
Bucks in 6 on the Bucks Plus Audio Network. Find it now on bucks.com/plus or on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions.
Decision Wisconsin. Jessica Tide, John Mercure, Ken Harris, and Kristen Bry on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. All right, how are we feeling about things? Key observations? Dr. Ken, almost an hour into our coverage as you're over there pounding on that computer. What jumps out for you?
What jumps out is that we're still waiting. We're at about probably a third of the way through.
Yeah, 30% in Wisconsin now.
And if this keeps going, Steve Scafidi is going to have a really busy night.
And a long morning.
Some of the governor's races are surprising me.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Out east, who was it? Can't think of the state now.
No, so North Carolina.
North Carolina was called for already.
Okay, so it is called, but there was another one.
But Mark Robinson, I'm not sure anyone's surprised that he was going to lose.
That is true. and so the Senate, the House, those things scare me because you don't really know which way we're going to swing. And it'll depend on who wins the presidency.
Well, and in that House, that control for the U.S. House, that is likely to go longer than what it takes to figure out the presidential stuff. Some of those races are going to be so close. Mm-hmm. Every cycle, there's a dozen or so that go to mandatory recount and recall. And when you're talking just a couple of seats to flip control, Yeah, we might not know that for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of recounts in Wisconsin, I've got some facts on that. Recounts not automatic in Wisconsin. Candidates can request a recount if the vote margin is less than a percentage point, and a candidate pays for the recount.
Correct.
But let's get to the latest numbers, too, here, because these do change fairly quickly. You can also go to WTMJ.com to see the latest. Kamala Harris in Wisconsin, this is with 32% of votes counted in our state. Kamala Harris grabs 49.5% of the vote. Donald Trump, it just bumped up to 33% with 49%. So at this moment, now keep in mind, we've got a long way to go, and we've got Milwaukee. We still need Milwaukee's, which is a big one. But 49.5 Kamala Harris, Donald Trump 49.0. That's how close it is right now. And when we talk about the big U.S. Senate race that people not only here in Wisconsin are watching, but across the country, we've got 32% of the votes counted there. Tammy Baldwin takes 50%, Eric Hovde 48%.
Well, and also talking about the House over in the 3rd District, which was going to be, I think, not surprised. That's going to be the tightest race of any of our congressional seats. As of right now, Rebecca Cook is at 51.7. Derek Van Orden is at 48.3, and that's with about 24% of the votes counted.
That's a very interesting race. Kristen, what are you focused on? What's top of mind as we sit here?
I'm trying to be better at how to balance so many tabs that are open right now. We got 4 screens up and trying to pay attention to what's being said in my ear versus trying to watch. And so it is a balancing act to be able to intake information while also delivering information.
Yeah, to stay in the moment. I mean, we have 4 big screen TVs in here, and I love that, but I also almost wish we had 1 because it's so much coming in, right? As you look right now, the count, according to the AP, is in stuff that they have projected. Donald Trump has 188 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 99 electoral votes. But a big part of that is that the states out west are not done polling yet, so those have not closed. So California, most notably, Washington and Oregon, those electoral votes are not in there yet. I mean, California's 54 on its own.
Yeah.
And that's not been called yet because it's out west.
And it's another 20 between Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
So that's 74.
Not surprising, just kind of where we are.
The big number, 270. That's the number you need.
Yeah, that is the number that we are focused on. I think it's interesting, too, to look at some of the races in Wisconsin for the Assembly and for the Senate. There are so many incumbents running against incumbents that the maps have changed things so much that it's likely Republicans are still probably going to control both chambers in Wisconsin, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be slim, and there's going to be a lot of Republicans who have been longtime office holders who are no longer because the non-gerrymandered districts are gone, and they're running against each other.
Or we're not running at all. I mean,
right.
we covered this with Dan Schaefer yesterday as far as in the Fox Valley. If you live in Green Bay, basically everyone who's on your ticket is not an incumbent. It's brand new people, both. And that's from the congressional district for Dr. Lyerly and Tony Weed to a state senate to assembly. And so it's all brand new people because of how the maps changed so many of these districts.
Yeah, and part of that is because, I mean, Andre Jacques was a senator up there on the Republican side, and he ran against Weed, the Donald Trump choice, and Weed knocked off Jacques. So Jacques doesn't go through to the general as a Republican running for that congressional seat, and now he's out of his Senate seat. So you're right. That leaves no incumbent up there.
Oh, man. The new maps. Stories about the new maps. For a long time, it made your eyes just glaze over. Oh,
Never
we got to talk about the new maps again.
Love the maps.
But
Never me.
It is important, and it will matter tonight.
Well, it matters tonight because they're reporting that Gwen Moore just won the 4th district.
So with 33% of the vote in the presidential race here in Wisconsin, it's separated by 100 votes.
Wow.
That's
So maybe the polling was accurate. Maybe it is a coin flip.
1 million votes have been tabulated in Wisconsin. There's 100 votes separating Harris and Trump right now. Now, it's only 33% of the vote in, but interesting race. Brian Stile is crushing Peter Barca.
Yeah, I saw that.
Brian Stile with 59% of the vote, Peter Barca 39%, 30% of the vote in there. I think a lot of people thought that might be a close race. Peter Barca's a known commodity. Brian Stiles doubling him up almost.
Yeah, I'm actually very interested to see Dr. Lyerly versus Tony Weed. I know she outraised him, which I think was interesting considering it's a +9 Republican-leaning seat. And so as far as how much she raised, how many doors she knocked, even if she doesn't win, if she closes that 9-point gap and overperforms where people thought a Democrat could in that district.
And what does that potentially say about the strength or lack of Donald Trump? Donald Trump anointed him. Donald Trump helped fundraise for him. Donald Trump came and campaigned for him. And if she wins that seat, wow, does that have ramifications for how that part of the state goes in regard to Donald Trump? How Brown County, Winnebago, Outagamie, and the Fox Valley play out?
That's just a strange place. I'm sorry. It's just like when
Have you spent much time up there?
Well, I used to. Okay. I don't anymore. That's why. It's just a different place. I've got friends in Brown County. I've got friends in Outagamie, and you go up and you visit, and you go the weekend, and it's a different place. The fact that
I want more details about this. I want to know what your definition of strange is in this scenario.
620. I'm going to pretend like I'm on 101.7 The Truth, but 620 is the biggest stick in the state. I get that, so my voice travels. But it's just
you don't have to be careful. We want you to say what you say.
That's why you're here.
That's why you're here today, right?
I have a reputation to uphold. So.
I think you've got 10 seconds, though, now.
The school districts aren't the greatest. The interaction of the people is a little less than a bustling city like Milwaukee. And I don't think they grasp a lot of the issues. So it kind of goes with, it's almost whoever moves there moves it from red to blue or red. And it's just a different.
You're saying that it's a swingy place?
Let's talk a bit with Door County, which, by the way, has a lot of political signs for that particular race.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's 9 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break. We've got your news straight ahead.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Truth Nation, stand up and tap in. This is 101.7 FM, 1510 AM WGKB Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, a locally owned Good Karma brand station.
If anyone knows the joy of rescuing animals, it's me. Just ask my rescues, who are all very important members of my family. Your life can also be forever changed by adopting a shelter pet. And it's not just about happiness your pet gets from finding a loving home, but that which you'll get from bringing them into your life. The heroes at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years, whether it's rescuing animals caught in disasters, ensuring the safety of animal stars on screen, or protecting our planet's endangered species. They go above and beyond to further their mission and make the world a kinder place for animals. Please consider adopting a shelter pet and support American Humane. You can learn more at AmericanHumane.org.
Brought to you by American Humane.
Ballots are tabulated. WTMJ is your Election Day hub. Live all the way until Wisconsin's morning news at 5 a.m. We are your #1 place for coverage of the 2024 presidential race. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
At
9 o'clock, it's 60 degrees. Tonight, showers early and windy, a low of 52. On Wednesday, partly cloudy, breezy, and cooler with a high of 56. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Jessica Gatso. The recount of Milwaukee ballots is complete. Chair of Wisconsin Elections Commission Ann Jacobs saying on Twitter that as of 6 p.m., they had re-scanned all previous ballots and have since been scanning additional ballots. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley tells WTMJ.
I know a lot of people are wondering what the heck is going on, but I want people to relax. Just relax a little bit. Look, there was some human error, and this has already been documented, and even the Republican chairman has said this is nothing nefarious, that was basically a mistake.
More confidence in the absentee ballot recount process. Wisconsin State Representative Chris Sinicki tells WTMJ she's glad the mistake in Milwaukee was caught and that it's being resolved.
You should tell voters that, they should have confidence in our election workers, that they caught that. Our election workers are highly trained, and, they're all down at Central Count doing what needs to be done.
Around 40 city employees have been assisting in the recount process, which will delay election results at some point in the city of Milwaukee. Debunking Election Day conspiracy theories. State Representative and former Republican Wisconsin Congressman Steve Gunderson tells Spanning the State voters can trust the process and the voting machines.
The voting machines you use to cast your vote, to count your votes, are not a part of the internet. Very hard to hack a voting machine. It's even more difficult if you can get in to try to change somebody's vote. And the people who are experts will tell you, hey, it's impossible to do that, those two steps, without getting caught.
WTMJ's Greg Matzik is at a watch party for Donald Trump in Pewaukee.
There is a sea of red. There's one lady wearing a blue shirt, and I believe the front of it's red. So you've got a lot of Make America Great Again stuff being worn and handed out. There's swag bags. There's an open bar. There's food. Like, people are in a good mood. These are all like-minded individuals, and they're soaking in the coverage right now. And even states they knew Donald Trump was going to win, West Virginia and so on, they bring about the applause.
And WTMJ's Julia Fellow is at a watch party for Vice President Harris.
It's really, really close. 34 out of 100 Senate seats up for election, and then they just learned that they lost Kentucky. They need to make sure that Tammy Baldwin keeps her seat. This is going to be really, really serious. That's another one that we're keeping a close eye on.
In the race for U.S. Senate, WTMJ's Adam Roberts is with the Tammy Baldwin campaign.
The early crowd at the Orpheum Theater in downtown Madison is a tale of two halves. In the front half, near where MSNBC is playing on a projection monitor, is the younger crowd, college-aged voters trying to get an early spot close to where Senator Tammy Baldwin is expected to speak tonight. In the back, where it's seated, the older crowd willing to take in the view from the cushioned chairs behind. At the Orpheum Theater in Madison, Adam Roberts, WTMJ News.
WTMJ's David Scott also in Madison with the Hovde camp.
Lots of just excited murmuring. We got music going. Eric Hovde spoke to his supporters just a moment ago. He prepared them for the fact that, hey, the counts are delayed because of the ballot issues out there in Milwaukee. But he said, felt very confident that they were going to take the state. Told people to have fun and kind of watch things. People are cheering kind of as they're watching the electoral maps going. Again, they got the same 4 screens up between Fox News and CNN. And people are kind of watching things closely, having something to drink, having something to eat, and just kind of seeing how the night goes.
I'm Jessica Gatso, signing Unlimited. WTMJ News Time is 9:07.
Our Decision Wisconsin coverage of the 2024 presidential election continues, and the polls are officially closed in Wisconsin. Now, as the counting begins here and throughout the country, here are your hosts, Jessica Ty and John McCure.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on election night. We're here until 11 o'clock. Then Steve Scafidi will be waking up from his nap, and he will be here from 11 till 5 or as long as it takes.
I did ask him, how long of a nap are you thinking? Like a 20-minute nap? He goes, no, I think a couple hours.
So he's going in full deep sleep.
So we'll find out as far as how long he let himself sleep in preparation for tonight.
I think he's going till 5 o'clock, and then he's going to take another brief nap, and he's going to come back at 9 o'clock.
And he's also covering, there's no upswing tomorrow, so he'll be on 2 hours from 9 to 11 tomorrow.
I love it.
This is like his Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It is.
He loves it.
It is election night, so you want to get to some of the big numbers? I think you have them up over there. Let's just run through where we're at for the Senate. and the presidential numbers here in Wisconsin as we sit here right now, Jessica?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Let's get you up to date right here. These are the AP numbers. This is in Wisconsin with 40% of votes counted. So keep in mind, it's just 40% right now. Donald Trump has 50.3% of the vote in Wisconsin. Kamala Harris, 48.2%. But keep in mind, too, we have many big areas. Take Milwaukee and Milwaukee County as an example that we will be waiting for. If we look at the U.S. Senate race that we are keeping a close eye on and people across the country are watching, you have Eric Hovde with 49.3% of the vote, Tammy Baldwin with 48.6%. So these are very, very close. Tammy Baldwin, of course, the incumbent. If you think back months ago, Tammy Baldwin was really ahead in that race. But all of a sudden, recently, Hovde came up and it got close.
I mean, the amount of money that was spent on ads, it got to be
ridiculous.
Ridiculous amount of money on ads. A really negative campaign.
Got nasty.
And, you know, I will say this as an analyst, since I will have my analyst opinionated hat on. I think a lot of people are relieved to stop hearing the double down on transgender and transphobia in both the presidential race and the Senate race. I think there's people. I personally am very excited to not have to listen to those ads anymore.
I think
because
you're right,
clearly it worked.
It worked. I was going to say
there was some
worked,
kind
though.
of internal polling that they had to double down on that kind of messaging.
Because that's when the numbers began to switch. And Charles Franklin told us he believes that clearly, that it's interesting. We all say we hate the negative advertising, and I think most people do. But it works and it's effective. If the advertising that was the most effective was standing with the American flag, holding the dog in your lap at your kitchen table, that's what we would see. The negative advertising works. I don't think any of us like it very much.
Doesn't make it feel good.
Somewhere in there, it
doesn't work with
triggers.
everybody, because at some point, I'll just say this for myself, but at some point I just kind of zoned it out. I didn't really listen to it. But I think a lot of people, especially the undecided voters, which is hard to understand how close you had undecided voters. I mean, even up until today, I mean, I saw on national news some people who were saying they were in line and they did not know who they were going to vote for.
They're in line and didn't know who they were going to vote for?
I don't understand.
So
that.
you know these people, Dr. Katz?
Yes.
Are you friends with them, or they were just people that you in polling?
I think she's bashing me.
No, I'm
That's so hard to
fascinated.
believe.
I'm fascinated that you said you have so many people that you talk to that. And what pattern did you find?
Well, like everyone, right? Most of your friends are probably white females. Most of my friends are black males, right? Mm-hmm. And so the indecision with the vice president and looking for themselves in the vote, I mean, that's really what you do. When you're going to go out and you're going to talk to somebody, they want to see themselves in you. And it really doesn't matter who you are, white female, white male, black male. I want to see myself in you. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? And they're not getting anything. And then when she did put something out, it was 3 pages of, that's it. Like, first of all, you can't do that, because if you do it for just black males, it's unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. So all the stuff, it kind of fell by the wayside. So they're like, because you got families saying, hey, and you got friends going this, but in my heart and mind, I don't want to vote for her, but I don't want to vote for him. So
but they were still going to vote. So there wasn't the decision of, I'm not going to vote at all.
Correct.
They just waited until the very last minute.
Correct. The pressure is significant in the community that you're going to vote. We don't really care who you're going to vote for.
Okay.
You're going to vote. And so they're going to vote, but they're not going to make up their minds until they get there and strike the page.
Well, then how about all the surveying that says that there's like only 2% of the electorate that's undecided? Is that just crap?
It's just crap. It is, honestly, because when I come out, if I'm, let me pick a topic. If I'm if I'm for or against abortion, I'm going to tell you what I think you want to hear, not what I actually voted. And so it may be completely lopsided. I'm telling you, this is one of those races where you can't get a handle because there are too many moving parts. And people are just going to decide, and it's going to come down to human behavior. When they go in that poll and strike that vote, it's a 50-50.
All right, here, let me give you a couple of the other races in Wisconsin here. Let's run through the U.S. House races. I'm just going to, all right, so Brian Stile is winning by 19 points over Barca. 43% of the vote is in there. Mark Pocan is up by 41 points in his Madison district. 2/3 of the vote has been counted there. Cook is up on Van Orden by less than 1 point, but she's winning in that district. Gwen Moore is going to win. She's up by 48%. That's the only race that's been called so far in our state. Fitzgerald is up by 30 points. Glenn Grothman is up by 32 points. Tom Tiffany is up by 35. Weed is up by 21.
Oh, wow.
And the question on citizenship and whether you need to be a citizen to vote, and I'm paraphrasing there, that is up 70% to 30%. People are voting yes on that. Dewey Strobel is up by 1,500 votes in that Senate district over Habesh Sinekin. That is very close. He's up by 1,500 votes right now in that race. Man, there's a lot of tight stuff.
There's a lot of tight stuff tonight.
So many moving parts. But can we take a moment and just go back? Because this was a presidential campaign unlike any other. I mean, when you just think about it, if we go back to July and look at all the time that lapsed, that's not a long time.
107 days?
So many dramatic moments. You had not one, but 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump. You had Trump's criminal conviction. You had the late departure of Joe Biden. You had the replacement with Kamala Harris, who would be the first female president if elected. It's just wild. So it's like, what is this next chapter going to be? It's going to be historic, no matter what happens.
One of the most terrifying tweets out of many tweets that I read today was, what if we just go to sleep tonight and we wake up and it's back to June and we have to do this all over again? And it's just a 4-month loop for the rest of our
nightmare.
The
worst
not do that.
Groundhog Day ever.
Lots of votes just came in. That Dewey Strobel race I told you about. Now 59% of the vote is in, and Cook is up by 2% in that race.
Wait,
so
for Dewey Strobel or for Cook and Van Orden?
I'm sorry. Sinekin is down by 2%. Cook is up by 2%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So both those races very close, both with almost 50% of the vote in. God, I just keep looking at, like, now in the presidential race with 44% of the vote in, there's like 150 votes separating them. Yeah. It's just going to be a long night.
Do you think it's going to be closer than it was in 2020? Do you think it's going to be more or less
21,000 votes in 2020?
Less than 21,000 votes.
I would have said it won't be closer, but as we sit here right now, it looks like it's going to be really, really, really close. That's such a small number.
I made this comparison. It is 2,000 more votes than what fits in the Fiserv for a concert.
Wow.
Ooh, I like that fact.
That's pretty good perspective.
The margin of victory in Wisconsin in previous years, less than a percentage point. That's in 2020, 2016, 2004, and 2000.
And there's enough money in all the races that they can afford a recall. Mm-hmm. So we're talking down the line, you can have a recall for president, Senate, House seats, local, just ongoing. So I guess we'll wait till January or February to see who the president is. I don't know. It's
that 21,000 votes. That's like 290 votes per county.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being about 2 to 3 votes per ward.
That is remarkably close. God, could it actually be closer than that?
Yes.
I feel like anything can happen this time around. I mean, look at what we've seen, right?
Right now in Pennsylvania, 51% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump's ahead by 59,000 votes. 51% in. He's ahead by 59,000 votes, 50.3% to 49.7%. So that is really close. Georgia, Donald Trump now ahead by 205,000 votes, 52% to 47% roughly in that race. Michigan also tight. Kamala Harris ahead there by 43,000 votes, 51 to 47. About 20% of the vote has been counted there in Michigan. All right, let's take a quick break here. North Carolina, 253,000 vote edge for Donald Trump, 52 to 46. It is 9:17 at WTMJ. We will check in and see how things are going here in Wisconsin. The Baldwin Party, the Hovde Party. That's up next.
Prostate cancer screening is a simple blood test. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Your family history of prostate cancer increases the risk for all the men in your family. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Prostate cancer is most treatable when it's detected early. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Men, it's your life. That's why it's so important to talk to your doctor about getting tested. If you want info on how to take action, the Prostate Cancer Foundation is here to help. For more than 30 years, PCF, a leader in scientific breakthroughs, has funded cutting-edge research that speeds new treatments into clinics, helping patients live longer with fewer complications. Go to pcf.org to learn more about prostate cancer and how you can advocate for yourself. Remember, it's your life, and it's a simple blood test. Get it done.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer. Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
America's hunters and target shooters, along with firearm, ammunition, and archery manufacturers, have invested more than $46 billion to help state fish and wildlife agencies manage and protect wildlife and wildlands across America. For more information, visit outdoorstewards.org.
Hi, I'm Kirsten from Pentatonics. We've all learned how to cope with more time alone. With more time spent isolated or at home, the need for companionship has grown. If you've considered adding a pet to your family, please check with your local shelters and foster organizations. Stray pet numbers have grown immensely over the past several years, and the trauma caused to these animals is devastating. Adopt pets, they need us more than we know. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
Exchange.
Decision Wisconsin, thanks for joining us on this election night. John Burke here and Jessica Ty in the studio, joined by Dr. Ken Harris, 101.7 The Truth, and Kristen Bry from Spanning the State. You hear that from 1 to 3 on WTMJ. Dr. Ken's got an easy show. He's only on for 2 hours every day over there. Kristen, you are too.
I'm only on for, and I got a co-host, so I think I actually have the easiest.
Yeah, try working for 3 hours sometime.
Hey, we're doing it right now.
Yes, we are.
Ding,
hey, let's do this. Should we get out to our... You're looking at me like, why are you taking shots at me?
That's all right.
Because you're my friend.
I got them all.
You got thick skin.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, you do.
I'm ready for it.
The U.S. Senate race here is tight. It is really tight. 47% in right now, and Baldwin is winning by less than 1% over Eric Hovde. That number actually just updated. Interestingly enough, same percentage in, and Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris. I don't get it. All right, let's head out to Adam Roberts. He is with the Baldwin campaign at the Orpheum in Madison. All right, what's it like there? Are people nervous? How are they feeling out there, Adam?
Well, if you can hear behind me, Ted Cruz's face was just shown as the projected winner in his Texas race, and that got a audible boo from the crowd behind me. But overall, it's been measured, I would say. The front-facing area of the Orpheum, where the floor is flat, is a lot more lively than the back end, where you've got a lot of people sitting down. I will say that margin you mentioned for Tammy and for Eric, it was wider about 10 minutes ago, and that got the loudest response so far. And then they immediately went into playing Chapel Roan, so it stayed like that for a couple of minutes at least.
You say which song?
Hottogo. I say in the most monotone voice I possibly
That's okay.
could.
We know where you're going. Is there any nervousness? Because this is a race where months and months ago, Tammy Baldwin was in the lead. It was significant. In fact, we talked earlier on Wisconsin's Midday News to Nathaniel Rakich, who's a senior elections analyst at 538. And he said, yeah, that this changed dramatically. All of a sudden, in recent days and weeks, Eric Hovde was much closer. Are you feeling any of that people are a little nervous, especially when we look at these numbers right now?
Maybe a little bit. I will say that the crowd has been kind of just keeping an eye on this projection monitor. No real super loud cheers, except for when Tammy's first lead was announced earlier. The other interesting thing I've noticed about this event, we've heard from our other correspondents around the area, Julia Fellow and Greg Matzik, as well as David Scott. One of the things I've noticed that's different here versus some of the other events, the lack of big names so far. The only big wig I've seen has been Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, and she's basically serving as the MC, providing updates for the crowd. She was just on about 10 to 15 minutes ago. And other than that, it's been very much just people milling about at this point. I know it's obviously very early. I would say as far as nervous level, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being everyone's running around screaming, it's probably about a 5, 5.5.
No Tony Evers?
No Tony Evers. I would assume if Sarah is here, that would imply that he would make an appearance, but I have not seen him, and I haven't seen Mayor of Madison, Satya.
Josh Call? Anybody?
No one. It's just mostly average, everyday Americans so far.
Must be because it's early.
though.
Must be because
Yeah.
But Eric Hovde came out and talked to the crowd. No sign of Tammy Baldwin either?
None whatsoever. Again, only Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, and it kind of seems like she's been slotted into the role as event MC. I am monitoring the side door of the Orpheum. We're on the first level. You got to walk past the bar to get down to the main floor. I think that might be where I want to hang out and try to catch someone for other reasons also.
Yes, we want to know if the governor is jazzed as hell.
Yeah, if he just comes out as heck yes, I mean, that might pump that nervous meter up to a 7.5.
Adam Roberts with the Baldwin campaign in Madison. We'll check back in a little bit, Adam. Thank you.
Right now, though, let's go ahead and check in with WTMJ reporter David Scott, who is at the Hovde party in Edgewater Hotel. It's at the Edgewater Hotel in Madison. Hovde is there. David, what's the latest for people who are just joining us now? What's the mood there? What's the vibe? Who's there?
I mean, the vibe is still very much a casual sort of dinner party going on through the election. The crowd's thinned out a little bit, but there's still dozens of people here. The room's still full. You can kind of hear people mulling about. The crowd's still cheering, as states either are called for Donald Trump or as the swing states flip in Donald Trump or Eric Hovde's favor as things go on there. It's a close race, but you wouldn't be able to tell that in this room. It's a very relaxed attitude, a lot of casual conversation going on. Very few of the eyes are glued to the screens as things are going on. People seem more interested in talking with each other, catching up, and meeting with each other.
All right, David, thank you very much. We'll check back in with you in a little bit. I don't know if I'm reading things wrong. I'm trying to keep track of some of the referendums that are also going on. There's a lot of school referendums.
Yeah.
In Mukwonago, it just said that 15% of the vote is in the Mukwonago School District referendum, and so far one person has voted yes and nobody's voted no. That has to be a typo, right?
That's got to be.
That means what? 7 people are going to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That's very weird. But most of the referendums that I've seen, and the numbers are not complete, are passing.
Oh, wow.
Point. Yeah.
And speaking of the numbers, when we were just talking about the Baldwin-Hovde campaigns there, 50% of votes are now counted in Wisconsin. Tammy Baldwin grabs 49.3% of the vote. Eric Hovde, 48.7% of the vote. And if you want to check in and follow along with us, you can always check out all the results at 620WTMJ.com.
It is 9:27. We step aside for a quick break. Then we're going to be joined by Jonathan O'Brien, a reporter in Atlanta, a state that's not been called. Polls closed an hour earlier there than in Wisconsin. It's an important state. That's up next on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
101.7 The Truth and Associated Bank have teamed up for our Black-owned business give back. Each quarter, we'll be giving away $6,000 worth of free commercial advertising for 3 months to 5 Black businesses. To sign up for your business's chance to win $6,000 of commercial campaign marketing on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth, visit blackbusinessgiveback.com. That's blackbusinessgiveback.com. Let's rebuild our community's backbone through exposure on the truth. For official rules, head to blackbusinessgiveback.com. Associated Bank, member FDIC.
One smile is great, but one smile in a community of smiles is so much better. A smile has a secret power that most people don't know about. A smile multiplies. It spreads from one person to the next, stretching across entire groups of people. Smile Train knows this and is proud to be creating a wave of smiles across the cleft lip and palate community in over 70 countries. Patients, doctors, advocates, fundraisers. Collectively, our smiles are a celebration of the transformed lives of over 1.5 million children. Learn how Smile Train is helping the cleft lip and palate community at smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
If anyone knows the joy of rescuing animals, it's me. Just ask my rescues, who are all very important members of my family. Your life can also be forever changed by adopting a shelter pet. And it's not just about happiness your pet gets from finding a loving home, but that which you'll get from bringing them into your life. The heroes at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years, whether it's rescuing animals caught in disasters, ensuring the safety of animal stars on screen, or protecting our planet's endangered species. They go above and beyond to further their mission and make the world a kinder place for animals. Please consider adopting a shelter pet and support American Humane. You can learn more at AmericanHumane.org.
Brought to you by American Humane.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Blair Underwood. You know, for the past 80 years, the United Negro College Fund has helped more than 500,000 students all over this country become leaders in this nation. So we want to just thank you all. We want to congratulate the United Negro College Fund. We want to encourage people to go to uncf.org to help and support and donate. And you may recall one of their most famous slogans, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." Well, a mind is still a terrible thing to waste. So please, by going to uncf.org and donate today.
More than 6 million kids in the U.S. have ADHD, and many aren't getting the support they need. At understood.org, we can help. Sometimes in class, the only thing your child can focus on are the thoughts racing through their head.
Why am I always falling behind? Why do I feel so alone? So different.
Your child is looking to you for answers. But as a parent, you probably have a lot of questions too. What should I do next? Where do I even start? At understood.org, we provide parents with the resources they...
Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. Thanks for hanging out with us. 50% of the vote now in the state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump with about am I reading that right, Kristen? 1 percentage point lead, it looked like, over Harris. In the Senate race, Tammy Baldwin leads Eric Hovde by 0.3%.
Yeah, by 0.3%.
That is really, really close. Woo! Yeah. Let's get out and find out what's happening in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's get to Jonathan O'Brien. He's with WSB Radio, the big powerhouse out there. He is the real deal. Jonathan, thank you so much for spending some time with us on a busy night.
Happy to be with you.
Georgia has not yet been called. All eyes are on Georgia, one of the first battleground states to close their polls. Where are we? Where do we sit right now with what's happening in Georgia?
That's right. Well, we sit with a very close race as we expected. Right now, according to the estimates that I'm seeing, former President Trump is leading Vice President Harris with 51% of the vote. She has 48%. That's with about 88% of the votes counted here in Georgia. The campaign telling me moments ago here that they're very confident about what they are seeing. They went from being cautiously optimistic to being just optimistic about their chances and their likelihood of at least winning Georgia's 16 electoral votes. They have the campaign officials that I've been speaking to have been walking around with a smile on their face all evening.
Black and Hispanic voters are a crucial group in Georgia. Strong African-American voter turnout in 2020 was key to Biden's Georgia victory that year. Who did you see at the polls today? Who showed up?
Right. Well, we saw a lot of voters show up. You know, we had record-breaking early voting here in Georgia. 4 million people voted early here in Georgia. And I don't know if you can hear in the background right now, but the Republican, the party chairman, is speaking right now. Some groups, Decision Desk HQ, I believe you said it's called the state of Georgia, projecting come through win here in Georgia. But in answer to your question, we have seen record-breaking voter turnout from every group. There has been concern, especially among Democrats, that they weren't doing as well with particularly black men. We saw that trend repeated around the country, and there was some concern about that leading into this election. And, of course, it will only be after the fact that we really can get a clear picture on what that looks like.
Jonathan O'Brien in Atlanta. Jonathan, thank you so much. We're going to let you go. Awfully loud there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So that's an interesting state. So he said that with 88% of the vote in, that it is 51-48 Trump, and in raw numbers, that's 150,000 votes. So 150,000 votes, Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris there with 12% of the vote yet to be counted, 16 electoral votes up for grabs there in Georgia.
And we've been talking about some of the key issues and what's important to who in which state. And I was looking at Georgia, and one of the big things in Georgia is preserving democracy. That's top of mind for many of the people who are coming out today to vote in Georgia.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. All right, let's head to our campaigns here. Greg Matzek is with the Donald Trump campaign, and he is with us from the Ingleside. All right, Greg, how has the mood changed at all since we talked to you last 45 minutes ago?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tommy Thompson took the stage and started bringing the house down. That's kind of what happened here. So I'm in the back of the room right now, and Tommy remains on stage. Brian Schimming made his way here along with Tommy Thompson, Senator Ron Johnson. Scott Fitzgerald's been hanging out all night. He has won his district. He'll be back with his seat. But Tommy Thompson doing what Tommy Thompson does, showing passion for his party, riling up everybody as much as he possibly can. And Senator Ron Johnson taking the stage right now, too. So they say what they took the stage, Brian Schimming, to a round of applause. He said, look, it's early. Things look good, but it's early. And if there's one thing to pay attention to here, especially in Waukesha County, the separation of votes between Tammy Baldwin and Kamala Harris. It is something to watch with 173 of the 184 units reported, about 94%. Kamala Harris has about 3,000 more votes than Tammy Baldwin. So a thing to keep an eye on here in a historically red county.
Thank you so much. Greg Matzek reporting for the Ingleside Hotel in Pewaukee. Let's flip it now and check in with Julia Fellow, who is at the Harris Party at the Peck Center at the Milwaukee County Zoo. Julia, the same thing for you. What has changed since we joined you about an hour and a half ago at that party?
Well, the projector went up and the big stage is on with Harris Walls behind Gwen Moore right now. She's actually giving a victory speech. She's saying that this has been a long, hard battle. We still have the recounting going on that's going on in Milwaukee County. And she said she heard Eric Hovde speaking today, and it sounded like a concession speech. A lot of people laughed at that. She's talking about Tammy Baldwin to keep out our best hope, she says. She has been a stellar senator, she said, and the leader in the vote to get out in the state. So all eyes were glued to the screens, but now it's glued on her. State Assembly member Christine Snicki, who is also a delegate for Wisconsin, is here. Introduced the Congresswoman who has just been reelected to her seat in the U.S. Congress, and she says that she wished that the 31,000 ballots that are now being recounted, that didn't have to happen, but it shows they're making a wrong right, and it should show our elections are honest and fair, even before the polls didn't officially close.
Julia Fellow with the Harris campaign. Thanks so much, Julia. Let's go ahead and get the latest numbers because we now have the AP 54% of votes counted in Wisconsin.
54% are in. This is very interesting because Donald Trump is winning by 1.5 percentage points. He's ahead by 25,000 votes here in Wisconsin with 54% in. So the Republican Donald Trump is up. Tammy Baldwin, 55% of the votes in, and Tammy Baldwin is winning. It's narrower. She's winning by 5,000 points. But right now, you have Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat, on top, and Donald Trump, the Republican, on top. Very, very interesting stuff with 55% of the vote in.
Some people might be wondering, too, about the big counties here, Milwaukee County, Dane County. If you're wondering about those numbers, Milwaukee County right now reporting 51% of votes counted. You've got Kamala Harris with 66.9% of the votes so far in Milwaukee County, Donald Trump with 31%. If I go and move over to Dane County, there you have Kamala Harris with 73.5%, Donald Trump with 25%. And that is 81% of the votes counted in Dane County. So that's a big difference in Dane County with 81% of the votes counted compared to Milwaukee County with 51%. But of course, we know Milwaukee, especially those votes with the absentee ballots, you know, you kind of get that late dump and nothing is amiss with that. That's just part of the process and it takes time.
But 81% of the votes in Dane County, they are running out of votes in Dane County, often referred to as now the most Republican county in the state, Dodge County. 53% of the votes in, and Hovde has 70% of the vote there, but there only half the votes are in. It's going to be an interesting ride the rest of the way. It is 9:39 at WTMJ. We head to the battleground state of Arizona up next when our coverage continues.
It's time for Truth Takes, a thought-provoking commentary on the new 101.7 The Truth. Here is Telly Hughes with his truth.
I want to stress the importance of a positive mindset. Everything begins as a thought before it ever becomes an action. So it's extremely important to purposely place yourself in positive spaces to help shape and nurture those thoughts. I know you're probably thinking, okay, Telly, let's be realistic. Look, I get it. You may work with people with bad energy, or you may even be related to people who are negative by nature. In this journey called life, there will be many things that come your way that's out of your control. But what you can control is how you respond. Understand this. You have the right to either tap in or tap out of whatever energy that may come your way. And that's how you can control and protect your positive spaces. The mind is where it all starts. And if your thoughts are centered around positivity, you'll see how things begin to transform. You will see a noticeable difference between things happening for you versus things always happening to you. You begin to grow through situations as opposed to just going through tough situations. Make it a priority to surround yourself with positive people and create those positive spaces and begin to experience the fruits of what a positive mindset can produce. Trust me. It takes work to creating these spaces, and you have to be intentional about it. And I'm committed to putting in the work because I'm living proof that it's well worth the peace a positive mindset brings.
This has been Truth Takes on the new 101.7 The Truth. Listen to Truth Be Told with DT and Telly weekdays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway.
Coverage On WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth, by the way, you live stream the show. So if you want to see how nice Kristen and Dr. Harris look, you can check us out. We're on the Twitter feed, on YouTube. Text the word WATCH to 855-616-1620 and see how good Jessica looks.
It is funny is the fact that we work in radio, but you're everywhere all at once now, right?
Right.
And so we are also on camera, and so you
And we're all
can't just have
dressed
a
So
day
many
off.
platforms.
Doesn't it feel like election night? We're all dressed nice.
I feel good.
Your hair looks good. You have good hair, though.
I just felt bad, so I said, let me go get a jacket and a tie because
you look good.
John's got
You look good. So. Hey, let's check out what's going on in Arizona. Let's head to Colton Krolak, KTAR in Phoenix. He's at the Maricopa County Elections Office. Colton, good evening. I see that 50% of the vote, roughly, at least what I'm looking at, is in Arizona. You may have a better number. How are things looking in Arizona at this hour?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not exactly sure the exact number right now is we continually are getting updates with results, but a lot of what you're seeing, those numbers are early ballots. About 1.1 million early ballots that were received prior to last Tuesday are kind of in that initial wave of results.
In Arizona, you have a ballot measure on abortion rights. What did you see there today? Did that ballot measure help drive more people to the polls?
I think that is definitely something that, I have not been at the polls. I've been here at the Maricopa County Tabulation Election Center all day, but we have had reporters out at the polls, and that's been a driving factor, abortion rights, pro-choice voters out. I know immigration is also something that's a big issue here, along with the economy is, I'm sure, a big issue everywhere, but really those three have been a driving force for voters here.
Can you talk about Kari Lake? You have one of the Senate races that people are really keeping their eye on. It's 50-50 right now, literally, in the presidential race I just refreshed. In your state, the votes are within 100 of each other, yet Kari Lake is behind by 7 points right now in that race. So Donald Trump is outperforming Kari Lake. Take us inside the dynamic of that Senate race.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really interesting. I'm not sure a lot of people know exactly what's the driving force behind that. I think a lot of people expected them to be pretty similar with the voters that they gathered. Obviously, I'm no political expert, but I think that's something that's going to be a really interesting factor as we go through this process.
You're at the Maricopa County Elections Office. I'm curious if you guys have run into any issues down in Arizona at the polls, because we have seen a couple issues here in Wisconsin.
No, not too much. It's actually kind of surprising. Obviously, Maricopa County has been under the microscope the last few years, but everything I'm hearing is it's been pretty smooth sailing. I know that they've made some significant investments into creating more polling locations, more voting booths, things like that, and so far those investments appear like they've been paying off.
Colton Krolak, KTAR in Phoenix. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So, Kristen, I know you've been keeping an eye on this U.S. Senate race, and it's very interesting. So, Kari Lake is very polarizing. She has right now almost 100,000 less votes in that race than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is winning by 1,000 votes right now in Arizona, so it's virtually tied. She is getting it handed to her. She's losing by 150,000 votes.
And it's so interesting to me for characters like Kari Lake, who I think very much lean into all things MAGA, all things of the rhetoric that can be really divisive. And it's like only certain people can pull it off. For some reason, when Donald Trump leans into that kind of rhetoric, it is not as off-putting as other characters who have tried to follow suit. And I think she is someone who has tried to play that playbook. And yet this will be her second statewide election in Arizona that she will not have won unless something really turns around for her tonight.
Yeah, it's not really super close right now. Dr. Harris, you have a second home in Arizona. You spent a lot of time there. Give us your take on the dynamic in Arizona.
Every time I've been there, every time I've visited in the last few weeks or months, Kari Lake has been all over the place.
Of course. She's a former TV news anchor.
Right.
She knows how to play the TV and the cameras.
But there's no energy behind it. There's no movement, right? When you see Trump, there's always that energy. The people are around. They're standing in line. You want to get there. She doesn't have that. And so they've separated. And her demeanor is not that personable. So I don't think people like her.
I'm just don't think people like her.
You're more blunt than I was. It's like, while people really like Donald Trump,
they don't like her.
Despite her having similar rhetoric,
correct,
it doesn't work.
But you recognize the hyperbole in him. You recognize, that's the same guy I saw on TV telling somebody you're fired or somebody else president. You at least are comfortable with that. She's just abrasive, and she's not well liked.
John,
I was talking to a friend of mine in Georgia, and he said that the Stacey Abrams sheen has kind of worn off. So when it went Biden in 2020, that was because of Stacey. Well, now he says it's probably going to go red.
Is it because she's less involved, or she's also less favorable than she was in 2020? Because she did not, when she ran for governor again in 2022, she lost pretty decidedly. And so I didn't know if she had become kind of this national sweetheart for Democrats and for get out the vote type folks, and lost favor inside of Georgia. So is it that she's less involved, or that people have just been like, meh, we're not impressed anymore?
They're not impressed anymore. And I literally got a text. That's why I paused when you were talking. The person responded, great question.
Oh.
I would not be surprised if President Trump receives a larger percentage of the black vote than he received in 2020.
Wow.
By no means the majority, but 8 or 9% would not surprise me.
And makes a difference.
Yep.
All right, hey, we're going to get to Steve Roberts, the ABC political analyst, coming up here in just a second. Really quick, look at the numbers. 56% in now in the state of Wisconsin. This continues to be fascinating. 56% in. Donald Trump is now winning by almost 30,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin, with 56% of the vote in. And Tammy Baldwin is winning by 2,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin. Wow. It's 9:49. Continuing coverage, Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I push through all the challenges.
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
It's College Month on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth, and we want to help your young scholars get those free scholarship dollars. All month long, we will be highlighting local universities who offer full tuition scholarships and local organizations who help students find thousands of dollars in scholarships each year. So be sure to tune into 101.7 The Truth's College Month so you can learn how your scholar can get those scholarship dollars. College Month on The Truth is sponsored by Educators Credit Union and Concordia University, Wisconsin.
Prostate cancer screening is a simple blood test. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Your family history of prostate cancer increases the risk for all the men in your family. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Prostate cancer is most treatable when it's detected early. It's a simple blood test. Get it done. Men, it's your life. That's why it's so important to talk to your doctor about getting tested. If you want info on how to take action, the Prostate Cancer Foundation is here to help.
Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. Jessica Ty is here. Dr. Ken Harris, Kristen Bry. I'm John Mercure. Let's get out to Steve Roberts, ABC News political analyst, is in Washington, D.C. Been waiting to have this conversation. Steve, I guess, good evening. Thanks for joining us. As we look at the map now, all those states that were listed as swing states have not been called. None of them called. Some of them now have been closed for the polls have for almost 3 hours. What are you looking at? What are you focused on? What jumps out at you as we sit here at 9:51 Central Time?
Well, what jumps out at me is that Kamala Harris is underperforming with certain key groups, and that increasingly this looks like a favorable night for Donald Trump. Obviously, at ABC, we can't call these states. We're trying to be very cautious and careful about that. But we can look at the trends. Let me give you two examples. Voters of color. This has been a bedrock of support for the Democratic Party for generations. But Harris, oddly enough, a woman with a black and Asian ancestry, and yet she's running 6 points behind the way Joe Biden did 4 years ago. You look at late deciders. There was a flurry of stories just a couple days ago that seemed to indicate that Harris was doing well among late deciders. They were putting out stories about momentum is with us, but exit polls show, in fact, the opposite, that people who decided in the last week they're going to Trump by 7 points. That's just two of many examples that indicate that the mood of this country is for change. And the single most important factor in this election has been true from day one. For all of the turmoil, for all of the tumult, Biden getting out, Harris getting in, Trump getting shot, the most important factor in this election has stayed the same since day one, and that is that 7 out of 10 Americans in Milwaukee and everywhere else say that they're unhappy with the state of the economy, they're unhappy with the direction of the country, they don't like the prices they're paying for gas and groceries, and therefore they want to change in the White House. That is the most important factor. It's been there from day one, and it's the most important factor tonight, and that's why Trump is doing so well.
Steve, what about the female vote? Because some people thought we could see a women's wave with this election.
Well, you have seen, there's been a gender gap in this country for 50 years, and Harris is running reasonably well with women, although she seems to be running 1 or 2 points behind where Joe Biden did, oddly enough. I mean, we're going to have to do some more work to figure out why that is, particularly given the fact that since the Biden-Trump election, you've had the Dobbs decision, you've had women all over the country energized by the abortion issue, and yet she does seem to be running 1 or 2 points behind the Biden mark with women. But the flip side of the gender gap has always been Republican strength with men, and Trump clearly has done very, very well with certain groups, younger men, and a stunning statistic, Latino men. Democrats have been used to winning about 2/3 of the Latino vote, and yet by a significant number, about 8 or 10 points, Trump is actually winning Latino men tonight. So the gender gap has two sides. It is working for Harris in some ways, but it's also working for Trump the other way.
Steve Roberts is with us. Steve, I know you guys are being cautious there. I just refreshed my results on North Carolina and Georgia. In both states, 90% of the vote is in. In both states, Donald Trump is winning by more than 100,000 votes, and every 15 minutes, the margin has grown. Do you believe Donald Trump will win North Carolina and will win Georgia?
That certainly looks like it. I got to play by the rules, and and the rules are that none of us at ABC are empowered to call a state until our decision makes that call, and I'm going to play by the rules. But the trend line is pretty clear, and it's not just true in North Carolina and Georgia. It's true in Wisconsin, too. I mean, you look at the numbers, the last numbers I'm seeing, that Trump has a lead of about 40,000 votes in Wisconsin. And if you look at the New York Times estimate, they have very, very good numbers, and they're saying now that Trump is likely to win Wisconsin by about 2 points, and with a 69% chance of winning your state. So it's not just the southern swing states; it's the blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan that also seem to, right now, seem to be trending toward Trump.
Yeah, 59% of the vote. Sorry, Jessica. 59% in Wisconsin now, and his lead is growing. He's up by 2 percentage points in Wisconsin. Same trend. Every 15 minutes, his margin seems to be growing.
270 is the number to win. Trump is he has right now 210, Harris 91. That's according to ABC News right now. Steve, this election season has people so divided. No matter what happens, when this is done, do you think this country can come together and move forward?
I think it's going to be difficult because, look, I'm an analyst. I'm not an advocate. But you just have to look clearly at the things that Donald Trump has said he's going to do if he's going to be president. He says he wants to be a dictator on day one. He says that he's going to create the most massive deportation of undocumented immigrants in history. He says he's going to go after his enemies in the media and in government. He says that he is going to, exact revenge and retribution against the foes who have opposed him. That's what he said he's going to do. So given that, it's hard to believe that this country is going to come together. I think the Democrats are going to be extremely disappointed, extremely frustrated. We don't know yet whether the Democrats will be able to hold one house of the Congress. That's one of the most important unanswered questions now. It's pretty clear that the Senate's going to go Republican, particularly if Vice President is J.D. Vance, and he then has the constitutional power to break any ties in the U.S. Senate. But it's going to be very important. One of the most important questions to look out for in the hours and days ahead is, do the Democrats able to control the House? Because if they have one House of Congress, it's going to be a very different Washington than if Republicans control every branch of government.
ABC's Steve Roberts, thank you.
Sure.
For the first time since we were in single digits, now Eric Hovde has also pulled ahead of Tammy Baldwin. 59% of the vote in there, and he is up by 10,000 votes. It is 9:58. News straight ahead at the top of the hour.
WTMJ. Milwaukee's Black Talk lives here. You are listening to 101.7 FM, 1510 AM WGKB Waukesha, and W269DL Milwaukee, a locally owned Good Karma brand station.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, experimenting, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, and connecting with each other. Leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready to begin? Explore teaching at teach.org, a campaign supported by the U.S. Department of Education, teach.org, and 1 million teachers of color.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. Feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Truth Nation, our
2024 presidential election coverage from the moment the polls open until the last ballots are tabulated. WTMJ is your election day hub. Live all the way until Wisconsin's morning news at 5 a.m. We are your #1 place for coverage of the 2024 presidential race. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
10 o'clock, it's 59 degrees. Tonight, showers early and windy, a low of 52. Wednesday, partly cloudy, breezy, and cooler with a high of 56. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Jessica Gatso. An easy victory for Democratic U.S. Representative Gwen Moore of Milwaukee. She tells WTMJ.
Listen, I'm so grateful to have been reelected because I'm on the tax committee, the Ways and Means committee, and that's where the fight is going to be no matter who wins in the 119th Congress.
Moore fended off challenges from Republican Tim Rogers and Independent Robert Raymond in her Milwaukee area district. More than 50% of total votes have been counted in Wisconsin, and both major races for president and for U.S. Senate remain as close as can be. In the race for U.S. Senate, Democrat Tammy Baldwin leads her Republican challenger Eric Hovde. WTMJ's Adam Roberts is with the Baldwin camp in Madison.
Overall, it's been measured, I would say. The front-facing area of the Orpheum, where the floor is flat, is a lot more lively than the back end, where you've got a lot of people sitting down. I will say that margin for Tammy and for Eric, it was wider about 10 minutes ago, and that got the loudest response so far. And then they immediately went into playing Chapel Roan, so it stayed like that for a couple of minutes at least.
WTMJ's David Scott is also in Madison with Hovde.
It's a close race, but you wouldn't be able to tell that in this room. It's a very relaxed attitude, a lot of casual conversation going on. Very few of the eyes are glued to the screens as things are going on. People seem more interested in talking with each other, catching up.
In the race for president, Donald Trump leads Vice President Kamala Harris 50.4% to 48.1%. WTMJ's Julia Fellow is with the Harris camp at the Milwaukee County Zoo.
Well, the projector went up and the big stage is on with Harris Walls behind Gwen Moore right now. She's actually giving a victory speech. She's saying that this has been a long, hard battle. She's talking about Tammy Baldwin to keep out our best hope, she says. She has been a stellar senator, she said, and the leader in the vote to get out in the state. So all eyes were glued to the screens, but now it's glued on her.
And WTMJ's Greg Matzik is at the watch party for Trump in Pewaukee.
Brian Schimming, to a round of applause, he said, look, it's early. Things look good, but it's early. And if there's one thing to pay attention to here, especially in Waukesha County, the separation of votes between Tammy Baldwin and Kamala Harris. It is something to watch with 173 of the 184 units reported, about 94%. Kamala Harris has about 3,000 more votes than Tammy Baldwin. So a thing to keep an eye on here in a historically red county.
The counting continues in Milwaukee.
From Central Count here at the Milwaukee Courthouse, 10 out of the 19 municipalities have finished their voting for the night. Those municipalities include the Village of Bayside, Village of River Hills, City of St. Francis, City of Glendale, Village of West Milwaukee, and the Village of Whitefish Bay. Election officials say they will continue counting all those ballots tonight, and the results will vary between the hours of 10 p.m. tonight to 4 a.m. tomorrow. From the Central Count location here in the Milwaukee Courthouse, Sean Brunda, WTMJ News.
A smooth process for first-time voters. Marquette University freshman Isabella Felder tells WTMJ the process was easy.
I voted early because I'm from Washington State, so I had the mail-in and it worked perfectly well.
Why was it important for her to be a part of the process?
I was happy that I finally had an input on just everything that is really important to vote because, every vote matters.
She says many of her friends voted early as well. At the watch party for Donald Trump in Pewaukee, Republican Party of Wisconsin Chair Brian Schimming saying,
in this party and in these elections, we're about transparency and open elections and fairness, and that's what's going to happen in this state, no matter what.
Schimming saying he's hopeful, but the night is too early to call. How could Minnesota impact Wisconsin's results? Afternoon host at WCCO Minneapolis, Jason DeRusha, tells Wisconsin's Afternoon News.
Post-COVID, something around 50,000 people have moved from Minnesota into Wisconsin. Will former Minnesotans end up being a margin of victory for one candidate or the other? I think will be an interesting thing to watch tonight.
DeRusha saying that although Minnesota is reliably blue for presidential elections, it tends to be divided at the state level. I'm Jessica Gatso, Siding Unlimited, WTMJ News Time is 10:06.
Our Decision Wisconsin coverage of the 2024 presidential election continues, and the polls are officially closed in Wisconsin. Now, as the counting begins here and throughout the country, Here are your hosts, Jessica Ty and John McCure.
Thanks for hanging out with us on your election night. We're here till 11 o'clock. Steve Scaffidi's warming up in the bullpen. We're going to bring him in coming up here at 11 o'clock and take you through the rest of the night. Different conversation. Steve Roberts, ABC News political analyst, who I've known for a very long time, and he's a straight shooter. He's not partisan. Came in and said that I think if you could read between the lines, he believes, and it's just what he believes, that it could be a long and disappointing night for Kamala Harris. In Wisconsin, what are the latest numbers when you talk about the presidential race and the U.S. Senate race?
Yeah, let's get to the latest numbers right now. These are from the AP. We've got 62% of the votes counted in our state right now, in the state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump is ahead with 50.6% of the vote. Kamala Harris grabs 47.9% of the vote. And in case you're wondering, Milwaukee County, we're always waiting for Milwaukee, and we know we'll be waiting until the early morning hours, not just because of the absentee ballots and the process that happens, but also because we know that more than 30,000 need to be recounted because of an issue that they had earlier. But here's what we have as far as the numbers right now in Milwaukee County. Kamala Harris grabs 66.9, basically 67% of the vote. Donald Trump, 31%. Wondering maybe about Dane County as well. We're always keeping an eye on Dane County. Kamala Harris grabs 74% of the vote there. Donald Trump, 24%. One of the other big races that we're watching here in Wisconsin, but also people across the country are keeping an eye on this one. It's the U.S. Senate race. You've got the incumbent Tammy Baldwin, the challenger Eric Hovde. Right now, at this moment, with 62% of votes counted in the state of Wisconsin, Eric Hovde grabs 49.4% of the vote. Tammy Baldwin, 48.5%.
So let's look at a couple of those counties. You mentioned a couple that are blue. Let's look at some red counties. Presidential race, back to that. By the way, Donald Trump now, his lead is up to 60,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin. Brown County, 35% of the votes in. Donald Trump has 61% of the votes. Fond du Lac County, 90% in. Donald Trump has 65% of the votes. Dodge County, 75% in. He has 69% of the votes. And in Washington County, 56% in. He has 70% of the votes.
You know what other county I want to go to real quickly? Door County. Because Door County has somehow picked the winner in many of the races here. Right now, 99% of the vote is counted in Door County. Kamala Harris grabs 50.6%. Donald Trump, 48.3%.
Interesting.
All right, let's bring in our experts. Kristen Bry is right here. Dr. Ken Harris is here. Based on what Steve Roberts had to say, based on what the numbers we just gave you, what's your reaction to what you're hearing, Kristen?
Well, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the night of not trusting what side of the world you consume your information on, no matter how hard you try to have a full scope of it. Because I would say in my world, a lot of Democrats felt very optimistic going into tonight. There seemed like there was momentum on Kamala Harris's side. And as we're watching this right now, granted, some of the bigger cities, Philadelphia, Raleigh, Atlanta, maybe there's some ground to make up there. But as of right now, including in Wisconsin, it's not looking good.
I mean,
for her.
47% of Milwaukee is still out.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of blue votes. Yeah. That's a lot of blue votes. It's the biggest volume of votes, and it's also the biggest percentage that's not here.
Unless it's not as despite the turnout that we saw in Milwaukee, if not as many of those votes are reliably blue as they have been in the past, because of some of the trends that we've been seeing, as we've said.
Well, I could probably
the
do the
Black
math.
community and the Latino community.
67% in Milwaukee County is going blue right now. So 67%. So if we're at 50% roughly, and there have been, I'm doing really rough math here, and there have been 250,000 votes cast. Okay. So there's roughly 250 left.
Right.
If 2/3 of that goes to Kamala Harris, that's a net of about 150,000 votes. So they're not going to toss in the towel yet.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
But also, if you look in all these other red counties up north, they have 25 and 30% reporting. So the volume is much less, but a lot of them only have 25 or 30%. So 5,000 here, 7,000 there.
Yeah. Can overcome it.
Makes a big difference. Yeah. What are your thoughts as we sit here, Dr. Ken?
I was telling the story earlier that I've got a lot of anecdotal stuff. I'm unlike you. I stay completely away from social media.
Do you have no social media?
I have it, but I don't read it when
we're on the
something
opposite
political
side of the
comes. When something political comes, I move it. Right. I use social media to talk to people, to get information from people, not news.
Okay.
And so as I go through it, I stay away and I do the split screen thing. You know, I watch all the mainstream media. I go to BBC, Al Jazeera, Reuters, Economic Times, all those that are looking at America and giving me bits of information that I didn't think about because I have American mainstream. But when I was in church Sunday and two women, college educated, advanced degrees, African American, said, I'm voting for Donald Trump. It's about the money. It's about the economy and being able to take care of my family. That reflects the 67%. That's usually about 75, 80% in Milwaukee County that would vote Democrat. And so that gap is, I think, something we're going to see for the remainder of the night.
So here's what makes this so fascinating. You talk about that anecdote and why that's important to people. I live in Waukesha County in a conservative community for the most part. And we had a fire, and you have people over. And I heard in my community from people, a bonfire. Yes, a bonfire with s'mores.
The fire department did not roll out.
And I hear from people sitting around the bonfire that they don't want to vote for Donald Trump, many of them, because of the character issue. Right. So you have the defections from Democrats based on what you said. Right. You have the defections from Republicans because they don't like the character issue. And where are the defections greatest? And I guess that's part of what we're finding out tonight.
Well, and I think the question that, Jessica, you asked Steve, that it feels daunting as a citizen is this question of how do we get along a little bit better?
Can we? That's
can
what
we
I
get
asked
along
him.
a little bit better?
Where we are right now, can we get along and
is
move
there
forward?
the appetite from Donald Trump and who he puts in his cabinet, and who works in his administration, but even just the cultural movement behind him? Is there an appetite to move forward and actually try to be more united and know that this is, as we were talking at the break, right, that 2 years from now we're going to have midterms, and so depending on what happens with the House and the Senate tonight, there's a chance to hold people accountable again, and depending on what shifts each party decides to make, another chance to have our branches of government be balanced and reflective. And I don't know. Do you have you seem to sit up a little bit, Dr. Ken? Do you have a response to that?
We made it through Civil War. We made it through civil rights. And we made it through civil unrest. I'm pretty sure we can make it through this election.
Make it through is different than, I think, the rifts we're feeling personally, right? I think you talk to a lot of people right now, and there's a family member or a friend they're not talking to. And so it's more of, I totally think that we're going to make it through. But as far as toning down the rhetoric, not feeling as amplified of anger, and I can't be married to someone who votes a different way than I do. And like some of the things that we've talked this week about the gender divide and people hiding their votes from one another and things like that. You're looking at me skeptically.
Because I've lived through civil rights. Okay. I've lived through some of the separations that were probably worse than you're experiencing today. If we can make it through that, I'm pretty sure we can make it through this. It's just a matter of time. And so the problem is no one, and no disrespect to younger generations, but they don't understand the depth of time.
But the rhetoric of our leaders is so much
the youngest person in the room, I'll totally take that.
Change.
But can I ask you then, as someone who lived through civil rights, what was it that brought people back together? What was the emotional shift that happened where things felt so divided and then it felt less?
Being able to say, I can differ with you 100%, but, well, let me put it like this. It's the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everybody's stuck in diversity and equity. But we forgot that as Americans, we need to be inclusive. So sometimes you just need to sit down with people and figure out what you have in common with them. Get to know the best of each other so that all that other stuff kind of goes away. That's why children are able to play. They don't really think about it.
But this is different. This is different.
Well, you still got the same children playing.
To Kristen's point, though, during civil rights, you didn't have the leaders of your nation and of your parties calling everybody else names to this level. This rhetoric, I agree with you, by the way. I'm optimistic, but the rhetoric is so bad right now. It's so poisonous. It's so nasty, threatening to put people in jail if they don't agree with you or if they tried to prosecute you. We've never had this level of rhetoric ever from the president or the presidential candidates of the major parties.
And words will never kill you, but during civil rights, they did. And so we think that it's going to be this bad thing, but at some point, somebody's going to have to step up and be a leader.
We've been saying that for 6 years.
So
when?
I believe we can make it through. Well, it's going to have to be on a local level. It's going to have to be locally. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. We're spending too much time on a presidential election talking about this ridiculousness. And in the end,
but at the local level, it's just as bad. You've talked about this in the show, and so have I. Look at the school board races that are happening now. School boards have become the new battlegrounds because some factions realized they could not win in the assembly or even the Senate, let alone at a congressional level. So they've taken over school boards. And it's nasty there, too, even at the local level. I choose optimism. I'm with you. I hope so, but it's scary. It's nerve-wracking. It's when you have daughters who are young and have just voted in a couple presidential elections, and all they see is this. It's a difficult situation. Hey, we're behind. Let's take a break here. Let's get out to our people. I wish we had no commercials. Good conversation, right?
Yep.
Let's head out to see how they're feeling here at the election parties for Harris and Trump and Baldwin and Hugby.
And has it changed since we started at 8 p.m.?
Yeah, good question. We'll check on that up next.
1017 The Truth and Associated Bank have teamed up for our Black-owned business give back. Each quarter, we'll be giving away $6,000 worth of free commercial advertising for 3 months to 5 Black businesses. To sign up for your business's chance to win $6,000 of commercial campaign marketing on the award-winning 1017 The Truth, visit blackbusinessgiveback.com. That's blackbusinessgiveback.com. Let's rebuild our community's backbone through exposure on the truth. For official rules, head to blackbusinessgiveback.com. Associated Bank, member FDIC.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health. Earth Justice is fighting to save lives, protect our climate, and strengthen our economy through the shift to zero emissions. If clean air matters to you, visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Junior achievement is where dreams take flight. We are helping students connect what they learn in school to future work and career success. We are teaching them how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. And we are showing them that starting a business also means changing lives and communities. However, we can't do it alone. Find out how you can help.
When you're high, you feel different.
think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Results may vary.
Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. We've just learned that the Whitewater area has extended voting to 10:30 tonight. They're still voting. They have been for the past 2 hours.
Wow.
Long lines. Don't know there was a specific issue, but long lines, so voting will go on there for a little bit longer. All right, let's check in on the two big races in our state. Let's start with the Senate.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're going to start with the Senate first. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. Did I misspeak?
Let's do that. Sure. No, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to Harris.
Okay,
Right?
we'll
Julia
go to Harris.
Fellow.
There you go.
Sorry.
You're making me go, woo, woo, woo. Yeah, let's check in with Julia Fellow. She is at the Peck Center at the Milwaukee County Zoo. She is at the Harris Party. And Julia, I'm curious where you are, if the mood has shifted at the Harris Party, because it certainly seems like the mood has shifted among Harris supporters with these new numbers.
I believe so. People have their cell phones in one hand, beer in the other, and their eyes mainly glued on MSNBC right now. I just spoke to Alex Lasry, who's a delegate at the DNC this year. His father also was a co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, and he ran for Senate. And he told me, hey, we all knew this was going to happen. This was going to be a long night, but he has faith that Kamala Harris will pull this off. He says she has massive empathy and just hopes that she can pull this off. And he is a huge supporter of hers financially, even hosting Kamala Harris in his house this year. And I asked him what that was like. He said everyone was blown away by her speech. Everyone will be blown away when she becomes president. So in his words, he says Wisconsin needs to make the right decision and turn the page. I think that's exactly what Harris has said so many times, the turning of the page.
So Alex Lasry has to say those things. Alex Lasry hosted her in his house, but the numbers seem to be trending, Julia, in the wrong direction. And we had just had somebody on from ABC, Steve Roberts, who, if you read between the tea leaves, basically said things are not looking good for her. Are you feeling that there? Or are they drowning in MSNBC coverage and unaware of that?
A little bit of that. Also, I looked at Ozaukee County. I said, listen, that was one that what did turn blue in the last big election. What's going on? And he's not happy about that. Nobody's happy about that. But they're holding on hope that there is big turnout in Milwaukee County. It's not all counted. Now, if you go to 2016 with a presidential election with Hillary Clinton, and you compare that to Barack Obama in 2012 when he won Wisconsin, it would have turned blue for Hillary Clinton in 2016 if it was the same amount of people that turned out for Obama in 2012. She lost 100,000 votes that people didn't show up. So it's all about, you can't count Wisconsin out yet until you count Milwaukee County.
And 46% of the vote has not yet come in from Milwaukee County, so that is a good point. There's a lot of Milwaukee County still to come in.
Yeah, and also
15%
just absentee ballots alone. Yeah, absentee ballots alone, 1.5 million. Come on, we still have a lot more to count.
Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting. So 105,000 votes absentee in Milwaukee County are still outstanding, but the lead continues to grow for Donald Trump. I mean, the lead now for Donald Trump is 75,000 votes.
And
so
that's the question.
Are there
Did she
enough
run
votes?
out of time? I mean, I was
Right.
at her first rally, her very first rally, July 23rd, when Biden dropped out and she was going to be the presumptive nominee. And things were a little bit, disorganized to just last week when I saw her on Friday. And the energy was so much higher, but did you run out of time?
Julia Fellow is with the Harris campaign this evening. Julia, we'll check back in with you. Thank you.
On the other side of the aisle, my co-host in Wisconsin's Midday News, Greg Matzik, is at the Trump party at the Ingleside Hotel in Pewaukee. Greg, we've got to ask you, are things revving up even more seeing these numbers?
Yeah, I think, all the battleground states are too close to call, and even the coverage here with Fox News showed that Trump has a slight lead in 4 key battleground states, including Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. Georgia also being one where Donald Trump appears to have a slight lead at this point. But again, it goes back to the point of it being too early to call. In fact, all the battleground states fit into that category right now. You're talking with folks around here, yes, there's a sense of optimism. The only boos I heard thrown the way of the television screens here when California was given to Kamala Harris. But again, that's not a surprise. There are really no surprises, significant surprises on the board right now. I talked with Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson. It's very clear he is not happy with the election ballot snafu from earlier today. In fact, he spent time at Central Count before coming out to the Ingleside. I also asked him about his level of optimism at this stage of the game.
I remain nervous. I don't count my chickens before they hatch. This is going to be a close election. Then you get that crap happening in Milwaukee. It doesn't boost my confidence. Listen, I want to be confident in the result. I want every Wisconsinite to have confidence that no matter who wins, it's a legitimate result. This destroys that confidence with what's happening in Milwaukee.
That about sums up the feeling of Brian Schimming, Ron Johnson, Tommy Thompson. We're all on stage together speaking to the crowd that is assembled here a little earlier this evening.
AP now calling Trump winning North Carolina, so it basically narrows Harris's path.
Greg Matzik, thank you. You're right.
If we want to look at the Wisconsin numbers too, if you're just joining us now, we've got 66% of the vote counted in Wisconsin. Donald Trump is ahead in our state with about 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris grabs a little more than 47%.
75,000 votes. 75,000 votes is the margin there. But that Milwaukee number has not moved. So it's still 54% of the vote in. So a lot of the other vote is starting to come in, but there's a lot missing from Milwaukee still. There's still a lot missing from Milwaukee, and how does that play out? Let's take a break here. When we come back, let's check on how the Senate race is doing. More numbers have come in that race. We've got teams in the field. That's up next on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
For all the Milwaukee Panther content you would want.
He'll dart baseline, and he will tomahawk it home with his right hand.
From conversations on the airwaves.
We're going to defend every board up the floor and every bounce and every pass. And we've got good depth, and you have to have good depth for the way we play.
To game highlights.
At the top, rises for 3 over Young and buries it.
Find The Roar on the Truth app, Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcast to keep up with Panthers hoops.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Williams, and I want to share with you the role that diabetes has had in my family. I lost my grandmother at the early age of 64 due to complications with diabetes. She was warm, generous, and a constant encouragement for me to follow my heart. Did you know that African Americans experience chronic kidney disease at a rate that's 25% higher than white Americans? And we're almost 4 times more likely to develop kidney failure. Diabetes and high blood pressure are leading causes of kidney disease, which can result in kidney failure, needing dialysis, or a kidney transplant. The good news is that you have the power to check out how well your kidneys are doing and learn ways to prevent them from failing. So go to your doctor and get yourself checked out. Visit linkbylovetv.org to learn more. Get the facts, get checked, and get healthy.
Calling all big thinkers. The world's climate is changing. These aren't new facts, but it means we must think in new ways about how we can live, prosper, and provide energy for our world while protecting our planet. Engineers are answering the call to create cleaner, safer, reliable energy. Solar power, harnessing the power of the sun to light all corners of the globe. Wind power, channeling a simple breeze to bring electricity to our homes. Hydropower, using the natural flow of water to generate electricity. Nuclear power, engineering advanced reactors that are safer, more reliable, and produce zero carbon emissions. Engineers are leading the way and empowering the next generation. Engineers answer the call. Brought to you by the National Academy of Engineering. Learn more at nae.edu.
Hi, I'm Kirsten from Pentatonics. We've all learned how to cope with more time alone.
With more time spent isolated or at home, the need for companionship has grown. If you've considered adding a pet to your family, please check with your local shelters and foster organizations. Stray pet numbers have grown immensely over the past several years, and the trauma cost of these animals is devastating. Adopt pets, they need us more than we know. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
If anyone knows the joy of rescuing animals, it's me. Just ask my rescues, who are all very important members of my family. Your life can also be forever changed by adopting a shelter pet. And it's not just about happiness your pet gets from finding a loving home, but that which you'll get from bringing them into your life. The heroes at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years, whether it's rescuing animals caught in disasters, ensuring the safety of animals' stars on screen, or protecting our planet's endangered species. They go above and beyond to further their mission and make the world a kinder place for animals. Please consider adopting a shelter pet and support American Humane. You can learn more at AmericanHumane.org.
Brought to you by American Humane.
Decision Wisconsin on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth. I wish we had the microphones on during the break. Those were the best conversations.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Jessica Tai is here. Dr. Ken Harris is here. Kristen Bry is here. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And if you're listening out there, thanks for making us part of your decision process. All right, we've been talking a lot about presidential politics. We also have a consequential U.S. Senate race, obviously for what happens here, but nationally as well.
Yeah, and think about this one. All the ads in this one. $160 million in advertising spent on this campaign. We're talking about Tammy Baldwin, the incumbent, versus Eric Hovde, the challenger. Eric Hovde, well-funded, backed by Trump. You've got Baldwin, who is seeking a third term. She's one of the 5 vulnerable Senate Democrats across the country, and a defeat could cost the party control of the chamber. So that's why people across the country are keeping tabs on this one. If we get to the latest results right now in Wisconsin, you've got 68% of the vote counted, so a little bit more than we had before. Eric Hovde is in the lead with 49.8%. Tammy Baldwin grabs 48.1%.
And a 40,000 raw vote lead, so Hovde up by 40,000 votes.
And it just changed. See, it goes like that.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep. Real time. Yeah.
So let's check in right now. We want to start with WTMJ reporter David Scott, who's at the Hovde party. The Hovde party, the excitement there, what are you seeing?
People certainly are excited. The mood has definitely shifted. Things obviously don't look good right now for the Democratic Party here in Wisconsin. Still too early to tell, and you can feel that in the room. The music has been turned down. Fox News has been turned up. Eyes are glued to the screen. People are really taking in this analysis as it comes in and reacting as numbers change.
Let's check in back with you a little bit later, David. Thank you so much. I want to get the other side here.
And David, we should note it's at the Edgewater Hotel in Madison. That's where the Hovde party is.
Adam Roberts is with the Baldwin party, and he is with us. Adam is also in Madison. All right, what's it like there, Adam?
Well, guys, the mood is, and you've kind of painted the picture of it already. What was already pretty tepid, maybe 5.5, I think I scaled it on the nervous factor. It's up to about a 6 right now, I would say. It's starting to go up. They have Steve Kornacki, MSNBC, white shirt, sleeve, one sleeve rolled up, one kind of falling down the other arm. He's painting the picture of Waukesha County right now for the Trump and Harris race. In Dane County right now, as far as the Baldwin-Hovde race goes, we got about 86% of the votes in there. Baldwin holding about 75% of the count here. And I will note that, again, the lack of big names that have spoken so far tonight. I know we're only sitting at 10:30, but so far, Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, still the only one who has made any kind of an appearance, whether it's on stage or in the crowd a few moments ago, just checking in and giving an update saying, hey, we're in this one for the long haul. Here she was.
Things are going to go up. They're going to go down, but we are optimistic in what we are seeing in the numbers here tonight. So stay with me, folks. Let's keep it going. Thank you so much for being here. I'll keep you guys updated.
And following on those Waukesha and Wow County numbers as well, Hovde holding about 60% of the vote in Waukesha County with about 91% reporting. Ozaukee County, 72% in Hovde, 57-42 the lead over Baldwin. And in Washington County, pretty solid Hovde right now, 70% of the vote with just under 30% left to go.
Adam, it sounded like she was speaking at a funeral parlor.
I was going to say, what a tough job.
Is there anybody in there?
How did she pull the short straw on that?
Wow.
So the Orpheum, if you'll know, is two-tiered. You have the lower level, and then you have the balcony, which is just above us. And, I mean, the floor right now, I'm looking at it, it is devoid of anyone. There is absolutely no one on the floor. It's mostly people scattered about sitting behind me and then above me in the balcony. But that floor, it's about as empty as a middle school dance where everyone's trying to partner up and everyone's afraid to go on the floor at the moment.
Are they back drinking? Are they backstage pounding them? What's going on there?
So it's interesting you mentioned that. So we're right on State Street. We're a block and a half away as the crowd has gotten a little louder as Amy Klobuchar is being projected to win her Minnesota Senate seat by MSNBC. They are the ones reporting that. But I went up and down State Street because we're right outside, a block and a half away from the Capitol. If you know State Street, quiet and dead zone are not words you would normally use to describe it. I went up and down the complete gamut of the street. Barely a soul outside, and the Capitol is dead silent right now, basically pitch black save for the lights on the rotunda.
Yeah, people watching the TVs, listening to the radio, watching all the election results come in. Thanks so much, Adam Roberts, reporting for us. I want to let you know something that's just coming in here as we talk with our local reporters, just to get a national feel as well. You have a lot of Harris supporters who are at the moment not feeling so great about these numbers. The Harris campaign, the chair, just stressed patience and resolve. The AP just obtained a message to all campaign staff. They're arguing that the closeness of the race is exactly what they prepared for, and they're predicting that the race won't come into focus until the early morning hours. But on the flip side, that you've got Trump's watch party erupting, as North Carolina was called for the Republicans.
All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, we're going to update you on the other Wisconsin races. There are U.S. House races in play. There's a referendum. We'll recap the numbers in the presidential and Senate race as well. It's 10:38.
Did you wake up with joint pain? Does it hurt?
It's time for Truth Takes, a thought-provoking commentary on the new 101.7 The Truth. Here is Telly Hughes with his truth.
I want to stress the importance of a positive mindset. Everything begins as a thought before it ever becomes an action. So it's extremely important to purposely place yourself in positive spaces to help shape and nurture those thoughts. I know you're probably thinking, okay, Telly, let's be realistic. Look, I get it. You may work with people with bad energy, or you may even be related to people who are negative by nature. In this journey called life, there will be many things that come your way that's out of your control. But what you can control is how you respond. Understand this. You have the right to either tap in or tap out of whatever energy that may come your way. And that's how you can control and protect your positive spaces. The mind is where it all starts. And if your thoughts are centered around positivity, you'll see how things begin to transform. You will see a noticeable difference between things happening for you versus things always happening to you. You begin to grow through situations as opposed to just going through tough situations. Make it a priority to surround yourself with positive people and create those positive spaces and begin to experience the fruits of what a positive mindset can produce. Trust me, it takes work to creating these spaces, and you have to be intentional about it. And I'm committed to putting in the work because I'm living proof that it's well worth the peace a positive mindset brings.
This has been Truth Takes on the new 101.7 The Truth. Listen to Truth Be Told with DT and Telly weekdays from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students.
You're listening to continuing coverage of Decision Wisconsin on 101.7 The Truth and WTMJ. Jessica Ty is here. I'm John Mercure. Dr. Ken Harris, and so is Kristen Bry. I want you guys to weigh in on some of these Senate and House races. Not a lot of suspense here, but here, let's run through them as we sit here right at the moment. First, let's recap what's happening at the very top. Oh, my screen just refreshed. In the presidential race, 69% of the vote now in. Donald Trump is up by 3%. The U.S. Senate race, 69% of the vote in. And Eric Hovde is up by 2%. Let's go through the House districts in order. Brian Stile, the Republican, is up by 12 points. Not yet projected to win. Mark Pocan, he will win, up by 41 points. Derek Van Orden, maybe the most interesting race. Derek Van Orden is up by 4 points. It's Cook that he's running against, right? That's the Cook race.
Rebecca Cook, yeah.
He's up by 4 points. Gwen Moore is going to win. She's up really big. In number 5, Fitzgerald is going to win. He's up big. Grothman's going to win. Tom Tiffany's going to win. Tony Weed is up by 20 points. That has not been called yet, but he has a big lead. So this kind of seems to be flowing together, right? I mean, as the lead has grown and increased for Donald Trump and Eric Hovde, Van Orden in his district has gone into the lead up by 4 points. Anything jump out at you guys about state of the House races in our state?
I think it's interesting only because while we're still, I don't think, have a pulse yet on some of the tight assembly races, because I think the assembly was going to come down to somewhere between 8 and 12 seats. And obviously where we did have new legislative maps, the Wisconsin Supreme Court did not rush because there was a case for them to also look at congressional maps again. Those did not change. So I think there was some optimism as far as, Barca or Lyerly in districts that were still very red. But I think that Van Orden, especially because his first term has been riddled with controversy, and to see if that hurts at all going into this race. I mean, I think you said it's 4 points. It's about 11,000 votes right now. Yeah. And so it's kind of playing out the way the maps have been drawn.
So let me jump in here just so I don't lose the number, Kristen. Yeah. One of the most interesting assembly district races is Donovan against Byrd, and Donovan is up 53 to 47. He's up 1,000 points in that race. Votes. Yep, with
and I think he only won in the old maps when they were head to head against each other. I think he only won by like 535 votes. Yeah,
and it could tighten, but right now he's up by 1,000 points.
Dr. Ken, your thoughts?
What do you think?
About which one?
All of them.
How about the House races, the more local races? What do you think?
I think it's going to go the way that they expected. I think Democrats will do well. I think in the end, you're starting to see where those diehard Democrat, diehard Republican just checked the box and went through, and it's fleshing out. But I'm shocked to see what's happening in some of these districts that changed. I thought Cook would be significantly higher.
Even though that district didn't change.
Right. Well, no. So who am I thinking?
Donovan and Byrd?
Yes. I thought she would be significantly higher.
Yeah.
He's had a few missteps over the last decades, and so
that's one way to put it.
and so it's like he's. I'll just say it. He reminds me of John Gotti. He's the Teflon Don.
Yeah.
Like this guy, like nothing sticks to this guy. He can win anything, anywhere.
Well, and it's also interesting for Luann Byrd, who, especially her first round, had only a positive campaign. Right? She didn't run a single negative. This is the last time. This is 2 years ago. Didn't run a single negative ad. It was a super positive campaign. This time around, I saw a commercial that actually was negative. I was like, someone got in Luann's ear to really get serious about this. And so, but as they're very different types of people.
Oh, definitely. But you talked about it earlier. You're never going to win an election with an American flag and your dog on your lap and sitting in your kitchen. You're never going to win it.
They're also both spending a lot of money. There's a lot of Donovan Byrd ads on TV.
Isn't it wild? I mean, you think about that, and then you also think about Dewey Strobel and Jody Sinekin, Habish Sinekin. And it's what the actual salary is for these people versus how much money they spend in these races.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, look at even Eric Hovde spending $20 million of his own money.
But I also think
Can you imagine?
that
wouldn't it be nice to be able to just be like, sure, here's $20 million.
Yeah.
But I also think that we need to make these positions now part-time. You're a citizen politician, right? This isn't your full-time job. You're not going to get benefits. Go get a job. You get a real job.
Well, a lot
so
of them
you can
do
understand.
have jobs.
Well,
I mean, that's why
most of them are lawyers. So
a lot
your
of them
name's
are
on
also
the-
landlords.
And they work part-time,
Probably
but are
worse
paid
than a lawyer.
full-time. During this election year, they don't even work.
No, they don't.
And they say that's what we do.
Right.
But they're paid a
so
full-time salary.
You're riding on a plane for free, a bus for free, a car for free that somebody else paid for. It's a little disingenuous when you say you want to represent me, but nothing you do represents me.
An interesting nugget, NBC is just reporting that Minnesota's too close to call.
And we do have two. The AP race is calling Kamala Harris winning Virginia, so that will add 13 electoral votes to Harris's tally.
And
AP
we've already
race.
mentioned this, but Trump is going to win North Carolina. Apparently, most outlets are now have called North Carolina. The Minnesota race is just.
So wait a minute. Walls is not. He's not blowing out Minnesota.
No, they're saying it's too close to call.
Wow.
Now
10
she will
electoral
likely
votes in
win that,
Minnesota.
but she will likely
How
win
many?
that, but not by
10
much
in
of a
Minnesota.
margin.
Oh wow.
That's the same as Wisconsin,
Yeah. Our neighbors next door.
but we're the battleground state.
We had a reporter on from Minnesota earlier today. And it was fascinating because he worked in Wisconsin for 15 years and now works in Minnesota. And he was talking about how beloved Walls is, but he has a little bit of the same syndrome that Scott Walker has because the last 2 months he hasn't been in Minnesota.
Wow.
It's 10:47 at WTMJ. We're going to step aside here. Steve Scafidi comes in beginning after the news at 11 o'clock. We've got one more segment left. We're going to run through exactly where we are, get some final thoughts from Kristen Bry and Dr. Ken Harris. Our coverage continues on WTMJ and 101.7 The Truth.
It's a big week for Educators Credit Union during College Scholarship Month on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth. Tap into Truth Be Told with DT and Telly this Wednesday at 8 a.m. as they will be joined by Victor Frazier, Director of Community Engagement at Educators Credit Union. They will highlight the $70,000 in scholarship Educators Credit Union gives to 35 outstanding high school seniors in southeastern Wisconsin. You won't want to miss this interview.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Did you know that every year, public school teachers spend nearly $500 of their own money for student supplies? Let's do the math. That comes out to over $1.2 billion a year. And that's just not right. At Donors Choose, we want students and teachers to have the tools they need for a great education. And now, more than ever, they need your help. Here's what you can do. Go to DonorsChoose.org and choose from teachers' requests that support reading, math, science, history, and more. Once a request is funded, we'll take care of shipping everything directly to the teacher. It's that easy. You'll receive thank you letters and photos from students and teachers and a report of how every dollar was spent. Teachers' needs have never been greater. Learn more at DonorsChoose.org.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Black men are the most likely Americans to die from lung cancer, and black people develop the disease earlier in life than others. Federal guidelines have nearly doubled the number of black Americans eligible for lung cancer screening. Insurance companies are required to cover these tests for those ages 50 to 80 who smoke or used to smoke. If that's you, talk to a doctor about lung cancer screening. For more information and to find a screening center near you, visit acr.org/mylcs. That's acr.org/mylcs.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health.
Waiting for Wisconsin to be called, but let's dive into the numbers in Wisconsin. Right now, we have 70% of votes counted in our state, so we're getting up there. We're getting higher. Donald Trump right now in the state of Wisconsin comes out on top with 51% of the vote. Kamala Harris gets 47.6%. If we go into the largest states, you've got largest counties, you have Milwaukee County. You've got Harris with 66.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with 31.3%. Madison, Dane County, Kamala Harris gets 74.6%, Donald Trump 23.9%. But across the country, you do have Harris supporters who are not feeling so great about these numbers. If you want to look for a little light at the end of the tunnel at this moment, Door County, which has for the last 6 elections backed the winning presidential candidate, right now, as I take a peek at Door County, 99% of votes are counted in Door County. Kamala Harris is coming out on top in Door County with 50.6%, Donald Trump 48.3%.
Yeah, about 400 votes there she's winning by.
One of the other huge races, you've got the U.S. Senate race that, of course, is huge here, but also very close across the country. The challenger is Eric Hovde, and he is coming out on top right now with 49.8% of the vote. Tammy Baldwin, the incumbent, grabs 48.1%. She is seeking a third term. Baldwin, one of 5 vulnerable Senate candidates, and her defeat could cost the party control of the chamber.
More local races. The House races, Brian Stiles going to win, Mark Pocan's going to win, Derek Van Orden's going to win, Gwen Moore's going to win. What do these all have in common? Fitzgerald's going to win, Grothman's going to win, Tiffany's going to win, and Weed is in an open seat. So once again, money rules the day, and every incumbent, it looks like, is going to win. That's what's wrong with this system. You have the most money, you're most likely to win.
Are you a term limits guy?
I'm not.
You're not a term
I'm
limits.
not.
You are term limits.
Yes.
Jessica, do you have
Term limits
opinions on
and
term
part-time.
limits?
I think at some point, it's usually about time, right?
I don't want to be restricted. I think I should be able to vote for whoever I want.
You don't think the thing that gets me about term limits is the challenger has to either be rich or have saved up enough money to be able to afford to run versus an incumbent.
Right.
It's their job. They get paid. While, I mean, they're obviously, they have to separate the two as far as campaign work has to be separate from your actual legislative work. But the fact that there is you still get paid while you're campaigning when you are the incumbent.
But money's the problem, I don't think, not term limits. We need to shorten the cycle like they do in a lot of European
and
countries.
Limit the purse.
This is
and
how much
shorten
you get
the
to
cycle. Spend for this race. That's
you
it.
just literally got to say.
And you figure it out.
You have $200,000 to spend, and you can't do it more than 60 days before the election.
And
I agree with
then
that.
let me vote for who I
that.
want.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is, you're just term limiting their money.
Yeah. Really comprehensive finance reform.
Same thing.
Which we'll never get.
I'm totally on board with that. Don't get me wrong.
And we'll never get it because the guys who need to approve it are the guys that are benefiting from it.
Right.
You guys have some final thoughts before we get out of here as we sit here right now?
And has
knowing what we
anything
know?
changed since we started this primetime coverage at 8 o'clock? What we asked you, what do you think the 3 big things are? Has anything changed?
As far as what the big things are?
Yeah. When you came in and now that you see the numbers, has anything changed for you?
That's a good question. I don't know if anything's changed. I feel like there is so much more data to nerd out about as far as some of the things I said when it came to women and ethnicity and young people to really understand, like, where is this going? What's going to happen? But I think the big thing is, so say this ends up being a bad night for Democrats, not just in Wisconsin, but across the country. What shifts does the Democratic Party do, right? Because I think prior to this, the conversation was, if Donald Trump loses tonight, is MAGA over? Does the Republican Party shift back to something that it was, or is that gone and forgotten? And I feel like there's been less conversation around what does the Democratic Party need to do to shift or change or evolve if they have a really resounding bad night tonight when we all wake up tomorrow or in the next couple days as things get finalized. And I don't have an answer on that. I think already we've seen a swing as left as the Democratic Party was getting pulled, maybe circa 2020. I think we've seen at least how Kamala Harris ran, trying to be more moderate. So I don't know if the Democratic Party pulls more, again, continues to move more right. But I think that's one of the things on top of my mind is, what does this mean as far as a strategy shift, a messaging shift?
Dr. Ken?
3 things I've noticed. I'm shocked about the fact that Trump is leading. That's one. In the way that he is. So far ahead.
And why are you shocked?
Because I thought it would have been a much tighter race early on. Number 2, Harris losing. In some of the places that I thought she would at least get a few. Like she like, perfect example. If how can I say this? If you're a black woman and you can't win Georgia, Atlanta, that's a problem. That is a major problem. That's a litmus test for her. Because if you can't convince them, a city full of millennials and Gen Z who get out the vote, who rock the vote, and you can't turn Georgia around, there's...
So my question is, do you think that's a Democratic Party thing or a Kamala thing?
It's definitely a Kamala thing, but the people are tired of the Democratic Party. You're talking about a party since, what, 1868 has been promising you things and has never delivered.
So here's a couple numbers that are not great if you're a Kamala Harris supporter in Wisconsin. The numbers starting to move for Dane County and Milwaukee County. More votes are now coming in. In Dane County, 91% of the vote is now in. In Milwaukee County, it's gone up to 58%. As that's happening, Donald Trump for the first time leads by more than 100,000 votes as we sit here. So now 75% of the vote is in, and Donald Trump leads by 100,000 votes. He's at 51.1. Kamala Harris is at 47.3. And at the same time, the U.S. Senate race, Eric Hovde continues to grow his margins as well.
I think as we close this out, I just think about the next chapter in this story. What is it going to be? Who is going to be our leader? And when exactly are we going to know? Because if you think about this whole election season, I just think of it as a story, and it has been this wild, unpredictable tale. If you go all the way back to January, so many dramatic moments. I mentioned this at the top of the show, and I'll just bring it back for you one more time. You had not one, but 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump. You had Trump's criminal conviction. You had the late departure of Joe Biden, and then the replacement with Kamala Harris that happened so quickly. I mean, this was her race so short. And if she is elected, she would be the first female president. I mean, the bottom line is this is a historic race no matter what happens. Americans had their say today and in the days ahead because so many of us voted early. And now we're just waiting on all of the results and wondering when we'll find out.
Coverage continues on WTMJ. Steve Scafidi is going to jump in here and lead our coverage for the next several hours as we head through the night. Dr. Ken Harris, thank you so much. Kristen Bry, thank you so much. Jessica Ty, I'm John Mercure.
Thank you, Jen.
We are back after news at the top of the hour on WTMJ. And
all of your favorite 1017 The Truth content whenever you want. The Truth app has it all.